Hello, 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 everyone, and hope you're having a wonderful Thursday morning. At least for those of you who are in the states, I realize, and some people are on different time zones. I realize that, but from where I'm sitting, I hope everyone is having a wonderful morning and wonderful day, wonderful afternoon, wonderful evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope that it is absolutely, absolutely wonderful. It's fantastic. Fantastic week. Fantastic everything. Everything's going very good. I'm hoping. Hoping you're staying safe, staying healthy, and I have some things to go over today. Some nice, delicious nonsense to wet your whistle on. Wet your whistle on. To sit back, relax, and have a good old laugh at. So let's see here. Let's see here. I have good things going on, and even better, is that I'm figuring out more and more uh, about Streamyards. It's interesting things that I have not known before, but I'm asking around, and I can get a couple of things back that I used to use with OBS, and things that I've missed, things I've wanted to include again. So let's see if it works. Let's see if it works. Now, what I'm going to do is, well, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go get started with today's show, shall we? There we go. There we go. No, don't worry. No one has missed anything yet. Just waiting for people to come in, and we're back. We're back with a new show. Back with a new dose of delicious, scrumptious morning nonsense. Let's see here. Civil Luca, have you been on EFAP yet? Yes, I have. I have actually have. We covered some. It's called some guy, some filmmaker guy has a bad take on the Joker, and we covered the Joker. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. It was I had a lot of fun. Really enjoyed being on there. It's just that they stream for a very long time. Unfortunately, I can only do 5 hours. I think that was pretty much my limit. uh, God of Ka, Morning LD. Did I miss anything, everyone? Not yet. Not yet. We're just getting started. You made it just in time. You made it just in time. Let's see here. You have a few things going on, a few things to go over. Some very funny things, I think. At least they were very funny. Let's see here. Sketch therapy. Welcome, welcome. Did you just start? Yes, I did. Just started. Just getting started. Waiting for just stalling a little bit while people come in. Just stalling a little bit while everyone comes in. Hopefully, getting the notification because apparently, some people have been telling me that they have not been getting notifications for things, and I don't think YouTube likes me anymore. So they're not showing off any videos. They're not letting people know about things. So just giving people a little bit to catch on. People to catch on. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here. Hmm. Sivaluka, I ask because I feel you and Shad Diversity would have a really fun discussion about writing. I think so too. I think so too. Mainly because I've seen Shad Diversity. We like a lot of the same things. We're both fans of uh, Rurouni Kenshin. He really likes Rurouni Kenshin, and that was probably one of the first anime, one of them that I really liked. And see here, set things up. I'm pretty sure many of you who know have heard about this, or at least remotely heard about this. But it's really funny nonetheless because it shows us once again how utterly inept video game journalists are and how they are unworthy of their job. Especially since we learned they actually get paid quite a bit. They actually get paid quite a bit to do the job which they are doing, and doing horribly. I mean, this is such a cushy job. You don't have to be good at video games. You don't have to be good at anything at all in particular, and you get paid, I think, around six figures almost, or at least what high five figure, maybe 80,000, something like that. I forgot what exactly it was, but they get these video games journalists, like, especially at Kotaku, get paid far more than they're worth, and that's basically because they're worthless. So I guess that could be said if they paid them $1, and they would be still be being paid far more than they're worth. But the fact remains, they are being far overpaid for what they're worth. They are the some of the most coddled people on the internet. But here we go. Kotaku editor Chris Kohler gets roasted after whining about Final Fantasy VII Remake's difficulty. And this is reminiscent of that other famous, very, very famous video of that one, I think it was Cuphead, a Cuphead tutorial. And the journalist, we'll say, quote unquote journalist, had the toughest time in the world trying to get through the tutorial. He just could not figure out how to make his character jump and then move forward. Jump and then just move forward. He couldn't do that. It just was impossible. It was an impossibility. And Cuphead is known for being an extremely difficult game, but not really the tutorial. More of the main game was known for being difficult. Then you had little kids passing the tutorial on the first go with no sweat at all. Let's see here. So Chris Kohler, a features editor for Kotaku, got his gaming cred called out recently for following the release of the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo, which looks pretty good. And my favorite part, though, about the remake demo, and I mentioned this before, is the fact that it has caused this big uproar between the fake SJW fans, because they're all fake fans. They're not fans of anything. They just want to pretend to be fans so they can ruin the things that you love. But there's a bunch of fans, quote unquote, people who are excited about the Final Fantasy remake because they think that the people remaking Final Fantasy are making Cloud trans. Apparently, none of them have played the game. It's really easy to call them out on how little they know about Final Fantasy, how fake the geek cred is, and how fake of fans they are when they think that seeing Cloud in a dress means that this remake is making Cloud trans for some reason. It isn't, and they not only can you disagree with them and they get riled up, so to speak, they will try to destroy your life. They will try to destroy your life, and it's a and this is one of those press the button on the guy sort of offenses by saying a factual statement about the game. People are crazy, absolutely insane. Let's see here. Let's see, but yeah, it's looking good, and they're adding more complex techniques, more interesting things to deliver on, some more advanced and intricate gameplay. It seems, but advanced and intricate gameplay is far too complex for someone who has to write for Kotaku. Okay, you need in order for them to actually play through the game without incident, you'd have to give them something like Fable. You know, where all you have to do is press forward on the joystick and have one button do everything. So press forward, mash one button and win. Press button to win. Those are more or less the speed of a Kotaku writer. They can't really handle things that really challenge your higher brain functions because they write for Kotaku and they get paid just to sit around and basically tweet all day, which is really seems to be one job nowadays that have different titles. Just sit back and tweet about how everyone's a Nazi seems like a really cushy job, especially if you're getting paid $80,000 a year for it. Oh, fantastic stuff. Here we go. Here we go, though. He got his gaming cred called out recently for following the release of the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo. Color took to Twitter after a particularly challenging session of gameplay with the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo. He wrote, "Wow, did the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo actually send my interest plummeting? I have basically zero idea how to play the first boss fight. A million interlocking systems all thrown at you at once. Hmm. Can you be more descriptive? He would also add, make sure to attack, but also heal, but also you can't heal, but also use magic, but also you can't use magic, but also make sure to stagger the enemy, but also he has a barrier, but also to hide behind the debris, but also, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is not exactly what he's describing it as. Pretty sure it's a, he just tried the game, found it far too complicated because he had to think a little bit, had to use his big brain and thinking thoughts to actually use this game, actually play it. It wasn't just a matter of pressing one button and winning. You actually had to play the game, the little old school style, when games didn't just hand you victories. At first glance, this would seem innocuous. However, the game has a classic mode to play in that is heavily cinematic and doesn't require a lot of button interaction. Oh, so it's going to have two modes then. He could have easily played the classic mode, which seems far less complex. It probably is more reminiscent of the original Final Fantasy game. And then you have this more, I guess you could say, gameplay mode where you have more button pressing, more things you have to strategize about, and it's overall more complex. Let's see here. Hex Harper, if somebody labeled their easiest difficulty journalist in a game, you'd have to if infant solve forever. And there should be a new it should be a brand new thing they should start doing. It should be a new tradition. Just name your the easiest difficulty in your game, video games journalist mode. I guess for this easy is for normal people. Normal is for people who want a little bit of a challenge. Hard mode is for people who want more of a challenge. And then you have journalist mode. That's so easy. It's easier than easy. It's the easiest of easiest modes. So that it's so easy, even a video games journalist can handle it. I think they need a difficulty for that too. Yeah, that would make sense. That way you can ensure that your game, you have a version of your game that is so so infantile that even a Kotaku journalist can have at least a shot at playing it without incident. Hack for Life, thanks to the two. This guy should play Bloodborne. He'd have fun. Bloodborne, Dark Souls. They should play something that challenges you, and then complain about it. Endlessly complain. I'm pretty sure that this guy wouldn't be able to get past the first monster in Dark Souls. I'm not even sure if he can get out of the prison that you begin in Dark Souls. Just how do you walk outside this open door? How do you do that? How do you get past this guy with a broken sword? I just don't understand. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it would go. Yeah. A sketch therapy, simp mode. Yeah. You can call it that too. Like, that would be a perfect title for that. A perfect title. Let's see here. At first glance, it would seem innocuous. However, the game has a classic mode to play in that is heavily cinematic and doesn't require a lot of button interaction. The classic mode is provided to help players who may be struggling with the game or want a less control heavy experience. Furthermore, the game provides clues for how to beat most boss fights. Let's see here. Oh, this is the whole demo. I can watch that later. I suppose maybe hey, it's good taste. But I suppose they can watch that later. Okay, with maybe tomorrow. Make sure that so I can make sure that YouTube won't knock us off. Maybe we can cover this and see how hilarious it is, how hilarious this playthrough is. Maybe tomorrow I'll have a Friday with these games journalists. Maybe it'll be Game Journalist Day and see them flop around in the so-called profession. Tomberry Queen, thanks for the two. Journalist mode. The game the game plays itself. That would essentially be journalist mode. Yeah, at this the journalist will just sit back and press one button, and the game just plays itself into victory. I think it's that might even be too difficult for these people, but at least they would have a shot with that. At least they'll have a shot with that. Among many gamers, Kotaku doesn't have the greatest reputation as it is, often cited for putting politics ahead of actual game journalism, which they do. I'm not even sure they know how to play games anymore, which is pretty evident these days. All they know how to do is tweet on Twitter and put politics into everything. Kotaku has become the meme of gaming news outlets. It says was evident in the hilarious responses to caller's tweet. If the demo is that hard for you, please avoid complex activities IRL like driving, walking slash breathing simultaneously, or dancing. Those also might be too difficult for you to reasonably handle. Yeah, because you have to like if you dance, you have to breathe and move both of your legs and maybe even your arms at the same time. It's a lot of brain function. A lot of brain function that I don't think Kotaku journalists can really handle that well. Let's see here. They should have made somebody else made that joke. They should have made a journalist mode. Fantastic. Same energy. Hey, this is the infamous tutorial. Let me see if it plays. Yep, I got audio going and everything. It should be going through once it loads. But this is they tweeted out apparently. This person tweeted out the famous tutorial video, or at least a GIF of it. Yeah, this is the games journalist who failed at the tutorial of Cuphead. So going back and forth and back and forth. Pretty nasty stuff. It's pretty embarrassing. I would be embarrassed if I was a video games journalist, and this is how I play video games. Can't even make it past the tutorial. There's too much brain function. Too much brain function, chat. Way too much. Let's see here. Wow. I consider myself a casual with limited gaming experience, and I could follow what was going on in the demo. You're supposed to be a video games journalist, so I think you should at least have the skill set to navigate through what I consider maybe mid level game mechanics. Yeah, I mean, there's easy modes for reasons, okay? And just because, I mean, just because you're a games journalist doesn't mean you have to be this high tier expert at all things video games. But you should have some competency. You should be able to muddle your way through a demo. You should be able to somehow run your way through a tutorial that even the most unskilled people can muddle through. Some children made it through the Cuphead tutorial. Okay, children did. Let's see. Make sure I got this. Journalist mode for the win. If it just cuts directly to the end credits. A journalist mode, the game plays itself, or it just cuts to the end credits. And if it's severed your expectations, then if that games journalist is also a fan of The Last Jedi, they would be impressed. They'll call it a masterpiece. They'll call it an absolute, unquestionable masterpiece because he wasn't expecting what happened. And if as we all know, if we all learned from The Last Jedi defenders and Reylos, is that if you aren't expecting something to happen in the movie and then it does, it's automatically brilliant. Let's see here. Uh, Kotaku's fe- Kotaku features editor can't play a demo. This isn't Dark Souls here, yo. Y'all really keep making this website look like exactly what it's worth. Not much. Let's see here. Game teaches mechanics before first boss. Still can't play game. They're really laying into him. This is fantastic. This actually shows us that no one is putting up with this nonsense anymore. We're done. We're done. The people have been done since Gamergate. Okay, we're just put up. We're just finished with you, Kotaku. We're finished with your nonsense. This is the website I think that actually declared war on gamers. They say why gamers are unimportant to the video games industry. The dialogue tells exactly how to beat the boss. Might be a stab in the dark here, but shouldn't a games journalist be a halfway adept gamer? Just saying. It's in the quartering. Put out a video. Let's see here. And we don't have to watch the quarterings video. Let's see here. Some of these replies are adorable. Hey kids, it's okay to disagree with someone's opinion about a video game, but don't be dickbags about it. Yeah, he has his White Knights, his Defenders. Kotaku has White Knights and Defenders. Of course they do. And see, this tweet really brought out the furious children. What do you make of Chris Kohler's take of the difficult? I think there's only like 2 defenders here. There's only about 2 defenders. And everyone else, most people know this is nonsense. This is absolutely indefensible. you should be able to get through a tutorial level. Okay, this is this isn't rocket surgery. Okay, this isn't brain science. Okay, get you don't have to into brain science, not the rocket surgery. It's a those things are far more difficult. Because because the best people on the planet, the most smart and educated people on the planet, are people who operate on rockets. They're fantastic. They take out the rocket's organs and they set them aside. It is absolutely fun, absolute fun. And see, Hack for Life thinks so too. You're playing video games wrong. Okay, guys, you're all playing video games wrong. That's the real problem. That's the real problem. You're just the video games are just they're not being made correctly, and I'm not terrible at video games. You all are just playing video games wrong, and you're expecting too much. Your expectations are too high. You need to lower them for the modern era. Okay, okay, chat. Just remember, keep your expectations low, and it's okay for a games journalist to not be able to play video games on the simplest mode. On the simplest mode at the simplest point in the video game possible. It's perfectly fine for a video games journalist not to be able to muddle through something even a toddler could muddle through. Okay? It's perfectly fine. Let's see here. What is this now? Well, that's interesting. Okay. Next one. We will actually look at this and see what it is. This looks kind of interesting. Another Kotaku, more Kotaku hilarity. I'm always up for more Kotaku hilarity. So let's see what they have in store for us. Let's see what they have in store for us. Let's see here. Something about Pokemon, it seems. More Kotaku shenanigans, and the shenanigans are complaining about Pokemon. Let's check it out. Kotaku spreads a handful of tweets in attempt to spark whitewashing controversy around Bay's latest Pokemon Twilight Wings appearance. Okay? Seizing on a small sample size of tweets supplied by a Japanese website, video game news outlet Kotaku, of course, it's always Kotaku, always blame Kotaku. If it's something dumb that's happening in the video game world, it's usually Kotaku. It's usually Kotaku at the center of it. Let's see here. Kotaku published an article highlighting the few allegations of the whitewashing of gym leader Bay and her latest Pokemon Twilight Wings anime appearance, spinning the minority accusation into a more widespread controversy. On February 20th, Japanese news aggregator Hachima Kikao reported as an oddity that a tiny group of Western fans had taken issue with Bay's appearance in the latest episode of Pokemon Twilight Wings Training. In the article, Hachima Kikao cited 7 tweets noting that these overseas fans are spotty. I can't believe how many people are mad at me. Are mad about bringing up the fact that Bay got severely whitewashed. You think Pokemon fans would attack me if I edited Whitewash Bay to be her original skin tone? Wait, so is Bay whitewashed in the new Twilight Wing episode or not? Bay, I love you, big BBG, even though you were whitewashed, because they hate white people. That's why they are sad about this whole supposed debacle. I literally cannot believe they whitewashed Bay and the SWSH anime. I'm so mad. Anime Bay is whitewashed, of course. They also severely whitewashed Bay. Kudos all around. She doesn't look whitewashed to me. Achima Kakao would conclude their article by offering up several defenses for Bay's appearance, such as the fact that Bay is not black but rather deeply tan. That Bay's darker appearance is seen within a closed. See, this is nonsense. Look at what these people are left to complain about. I mean, come on. Look at that. There's hardly any difference at all. And they're just complaining about whitewashing when she just looks like this normally. Okay? She's maybe one grade of difference in color. That's it. These are what people complain about these days. Not the storytelling, not the characterization, not how terrible something was or how good something was, or and how they disrespected the lore to a degree of the Last Jedi or whatever. Not any of that. They're complaining about a slightly lighter skin tone of one of the characters who already had a very light skin tone. That's it. This is fantastic. These are the people that call you Nazi on the internet. These are the people who complain about nothing because they're complaining about nothing here. And these are the people who want to ruin everything for you. These are the people who call you Nazi. These are the people who just sit back and cry about one slight degree lighter of skin tone of a character. These are also the people who just sit back and look down upon you from their high horse, from their giant pedestal that they have stood upon themselves, that they have climbed upon, and just the arrogance, the pure arrogance, just is dripping off of every tweet these people make. It's fantastic, and it's hilarious. I find it really funny how desperately desperate these people are. That Bay's darker appearance is seen within a closed Pokemon gym, and that in Pokemon Twilight Wings, Bay's skin is being highlighted by bright sunlight due to training outdoors. Yeah, I guess these well, that makes sense. That makes sense why they wouldn't get this because in order to realize how the sun works on one's skin color and how light works, you'd have to go outside. And people don't go outside; they just sit inside all day and tweet. So they don't really understand that if you go out in the sun, if you go out in the daylight and get hit by sun rays, your skin will look lighter because there's going to be more light and fewer shadows hitting you. So that makes sense. No wonder they're complaining. Try going outside every once in a while. Okay, arrogant people. Just try it. I think you might like it. Okay. I rock analytics for $1.99. Is getting rid of a redhead bleaching? I don't know. That's a good question. Bleach washing. Oh, let's see here. Let's see here. The same day, Kotaku staff writer Brian Ashcraft, because of course these high-minded, often white far left liberals are going to tell a minority what to do, are going to tell the foreigner what to do with their own property. You Japanese people, you did this all wrong. You Japanese people uh are so racist. Okay, Japan is filled with white supremacists, I guess, because they apparently whitewashed this character by giving her a slightly lighter skin tone because she's out in the sun. And go out in the sun every once in a while, Kotaku. It exists. It's out there. Okay, see what it does to your skin tone. See what light does to you. It makes you look a little lighter. But the same day, Kotaku staff writer Brian Ashcraft brought the controversy to widespread Western attention, publishing an article titled Pokemon anime accused of whitewashing." In the article, Ashcraft discusses the same points that no one accused it of whitewashing. There's some 12 psychos on Twitter accuse it of being whitewashed. Okay, they're nobodies, so nobody said that. No, it'd be different if there were someone came out who worked on the project and said that they whitewashed it. It'd be different if someone from the industry, even from someone remotely related to the industry or the production, came out and said, "Yeah, the team decided to whitewash this character." It's not the same when 12 random psychos on Twitter come out and just tweet about it and complain about it. Okay, no one notices this stuff. No one cares. They're just very vocal, but they are very small in number, and they are the minority in number. They are a very vocal minority, but they're still a minority, and most of your fans still love it. And then most of your fans, 99.9% of people, do not care one little bit. Okay? They just don't. Let's see here. Especially not with a change this small. It wasn't even a change. She just stepped out into the sun. I know it's a big change for Kotaku, but it's not really a big change for most people. In this article, Ashcraft discusses the same points made by Kikau article, but concludes that his article with a comparison image of Bay's two appearances and stating, yeah, that's probably the noise that constantly goes off in his head at all times. This a constant state of implying in a less subtle fashion that he agrees with the accusations. Kit Harrison, the technical QA lead of the Jurassic World Evolution and Elite Dangerous series, developer Frontier Developments, offered his support for the accusations, leveling the tired insult of right-winger gamer chuds. This is what they call everyone who disagrees with them. You can be left-wing, you can be very, very liberal, in fact, but you're still right-wing if you do not like what they have to say. You're still right-wing if you disagree with them, and you're a gamer chud. They hate, just like the modern creators of Doctor Who, the modern creators of Star Wars, modern creators of video games really hate the people who buy their product. They really hate them with a vengeance. The people who create video games, who write about video games, hate people who read about video games and people who play video games. It's like Star Wars creators really, really, really hate old Star Wars fans. And Doctor Who really hates Doctor Who fans. And Star Trek really hates Star Trek fans. Let's see here. Right-wing gamer chuds against opponents and condescendingly hoping future episodes correct this. Correct what? There's nothing to correct. Okay? And Kit Harrison, I'm not going to buy any more of your stuff. Because I can be petty too. Okay? If you come out and say and call people Nazi and right-wing chuds and stuff like that, I'm not buying anything you have to sell. I don't care how much I like it. Like, we can make our own stuff now. This is the current year. Get with the times. People can make video games in their basement now. Okay, they won't be AAA titles or anything, but people can make video games in their basement. Okay, creators can make comics. People can write articles on their own. They don't have to be part of Kotaku. Okay, because if you tout this social justice woke nonsense, I'm not buying anything you have to offer. It's just right off the table. Because I can be petty too. I can be just as petty as you, and I can choose not to buy whatever you're selling, and I can bet you that you're going to be feeling the pain far sooner than I. Let's see here. See, what's this related? Kotaku includes graphic images of underage fictional characters, including Pokemon's Misty, an article about video game porn. No, this is going to be turning into a Kotaku day, isn't it? I've lined up so many other things, but this is turning into Kotaku day, Taco Day, Kotaku Day, and the Kotaku site. What? Yeah, that sounds like something Kotaku would do. Let's laugh at Kotaku some more. I'm always up for that. I'm always up for that. And despite Harrison's assumed moral high ground, because they always have assumed moral high grounds, because they never have the actual moral high ground. Okay, they don't have actual moral high grounds. They have manufactured moral high grounds. His statement proved to be some of the most unpopular concerning the issue. Do tell us more about how you don't actually understand the difference between lighting and saturation. Yeah, Kotaku, go outside, learn how the sun works. Dude, you're white acting as if as if this is some breaking news. White acting. Have a comment from a Pokemon fan who's black. Shut the hell up. You're not doing us favors. I think there was a book once written by a one of these black people that that these far leftist white liberals like try to champion for, try to speak for, and the book is called "Stop Helping." Record Thanks for $1.99. Every insult gets less coherent, like a child. Exactly. And they're doing acronyms. I forgot what "chud" actually means, but that's one of their favorites now. It's like some sort of basement dweller thing. Let's see here. Hi, left-wing artist here. You're comparing a scene in an interior space with a scene in playing direct sunlight to the face. Your first clue should be that every other color is also lighter. Everyone is just slamming Kotaku, even left wing artists and the people that they're trying to protect. Okay, minorities are even saying, "Hey, this is dumb. Hey, this is dumb. you're you're no good at this, Kotaku. Try something else." Translation: I have no idea how shading and lighting works in animation, but the right wing gamer chuds. Educate yourself before talking about things you clearly don't understand. Well, if they did that, they would have to work. And if they educated themselves, Kotaku couldn't really pump out articles, could they? Let's see here. Oh, this is gold. This is gold. Similarly, most audiences who encountered Kotaku's articles saw through this just disingenuous reputation of Bay's appearance and criticized the site for seemingly attempting to stir up artificial controversy and discourse. This person might even have me blocked, and they disagree with Kotaku. Maybe if the social justice his sweatpants brigade went outside in the sun, went outside in the sun instead of lurking in their parents' garage, they would realize the skin tones look different in different types of lighting. Yeah, it's like we said before. People are coming to the same conclusions. People are coming to the same conclusions. And here's the thing: the one thing I disagree about this tweet is they are not in their parents' garages. Okay, they're in their parents' basement. Big difference. Big difference. Let's see here. Raid Blunner, Chud, cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. I don't know who came up with that. Who is that anyway? I understand the reference to humanoid underground dweller because it's like you live in your basement or whatever. But cannibalistic? Where'd the cannibalistic part come from? Is, is there a rampant uprising of cannibal nerds? Where do they find these insults? Is he Hack for Life? Thanks for the 5. Gotaku uses games journalism. It isn't very effective. Oh yeah, Pokemon. Kotaku uses game journalism. It isn't very effective. And it wasn't. It was a complete miss here. It was a complete miss here. Let's see here. Let's see here. This was an outrage. Okay, this was an outrage that had any traction. This wasn't an outrage that had any traction. Kotaku just blew up the story because it gets a certain subset of I guess gamers, a subset of gamers riled up by woke individuals who are more interested in faux activism and yeah, more interested in faux. They're not really interested. They're not really more interested in faux activism. They're only interested in faux activism because actual activism is work. And if things take work, then woke people don't really want to do it. Okay, they don't want to do work. They want to pretend to be working. They want to look like they're being activists, but they don't actually want to be activists. It's kind of like that movie, the green or the Green Inferno or something by the guy who did Hostel, Eli Roth, the Green Inferno. They want to look like they're doing good. They want to look like they're being activists, but they're not really. They don't want to deal with the consequences. By woke individuals who are more interested in faux activism and that don't understand how lighting works, and by toxic Pokemon fans who want to find something to whine about. So we seriously have this tired conversation again because Kotaku doesn't know how the sun works. Uh, Try again, Kotaku. This one didn't really work too well. As these people said, the lighting works differently in the sun. Try going out in the sun every once in a while, and you will learn some very interesting facts about Mother Nature. Okay, let's see here. But we have some more stuff. We have some more Kotaku nonsense. I don't know, Chad. Do you have enough of Kotaku already? I'm having fun going over this the brigade of weirdness coming from Kotaku. But if you don't want to go over Kotaku, if you want to go over more stuff, you can. I have more stuff to go over. Let's see here. It just doesn't end with them. It just does not end. It's an endless brigade of Kotaku. I know this is from last year. It's from like the middle of last year, but it's still funny. It's still interesting, and it's not. This show is not called modern or up to date morning nonsense. It's just morning nonsense because it's not about news. It's about laughing at woke nonsense. Let's see here. Let's see. What can we do? What can we do with a drunken sailor? Here we go. Here we go, chat. Here we go. Kotaku includes graphic images of underage fictional characters, including Pokemon's Misty, in an article about video game porn. Kotaku normally a mainstream outlet for video game news, and actually more less of an outlet for video game news, more of an outlet for memes. That's their job now, is to be so unself-aware, so unironically woke that they are just a meme factory at this point. Let's see here. Recently published a bizarre article. That's all he put out. You go to Kotaku for bizarre woke articles, so you can laugh at and make fun of. You might have just a morning Kotaku day. Recently published a bizarre article which detailed the author's experience watching a bunch of video game porn. This is journalism. This is journalism to Kotaku, and included graphic images of underage video game characters. Why is there a link to this? Why is there a link? You don't need to add a link to this, okay? I believe you. Written by Kate Gray, who regularly writes for Kotaku about video games through the lens of sexual activity in articles such as Life Got You Down, Load Up The Sims 4 and Open a Seaman Cafe, and what I learned from watching a great deal of Overwatch porn, animated. Could you imagine having your porn habits, being able to monetize your porn habits? This person is just weird. That's all they think about too. These woke people. They're totally obsessed with their fetishes, which is why every time you complain. By the way, this is why every time you complain about how how whenever they turn a female character into a man, give him a man's body, and you say, "Hey, she looks like a man," and they instantly come out and say, "This is why they instantly come back at you with, we're sorry, it wasn't made for you. We can't jerk off to her." Like it's not about jerking off to her. Okay, it's about her looking like a woman because she's supposed to be a woman, or her looking good because she's supposed to be the main character. And usually, we enjoy our heroes being good looking. We enjoy our heroes being handsome or beautiful or pretty or whatever, and being charismatic. It's just how things are done. This is why we like our superheroes to be fit and overall attractive, conventionally attractive, because this is how we recognize and remember our heroes. Okay, is how we recognize and remember our heroes. And if you watch Alexander the Great by Oliver Stone, Ptolemy has a great line about that. The great a man such as Alexander actually exists? Of course not. We idolize him. We put him in myths. We make him better than he was. We remember these people as far better than they actually were. And if you respect somebody, if you really like somebody, you remember them as being. You remember the good traits and them being more attractive than they probably actually were. It's just human nature. We want our heroes to be charismatic and good looking. It's not about jerking off or adding it to your porn collection. Okay. But that's where these people instantly go, and you see where their brain is all the time. All the time. Claims to exist solely because Gray called my friend and asked her if she would be down to watch a bunch of video game porn with me so I could write about it. Yeah, that's a really strange job, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there who would want this job, being able to monetize, being able to make $80,000 a year or so, 60 to $80,000 a year, writing about your porn habits. Let's see here. The article proceeds to offer no discussion about any of the various facets of video game based pornography, such as its impact on respective games' marketing, adult content of video game characters being regularly and consistently produced by alphabet people creators, or how a character is ultimately received, opting instead to solely feature Gray's attempts at humorous commentary and descriptions regarding the content she viewed. Okay, here we go. Here we go. It would have been quite an entertaining watch if it wasn't for the utter disregard for accuracy. Hermione and Crabbe met up in the Gryffindor common room, which is unlikely as Crabbe would need the password, and then had sex on the sofa in front of the fire. Crabbe magically. Why is it Crabbe though? Why? Why Crabbe of all people? I mean, I think Neville Longbottom would have been a far better choice if he wanted to go with the creepy factor or something. A Crabbe magically removed Hermione's uniform with a wordless spell, which is magic far too advanced for Crabbe. Let's see here. Then we found some Zelda porn. It hardly surprised the with that these videos turned Link into a flat ass dude with the sexual prowess of a spoon. Link is pretty sexy with his clothes on, after all. Can we make him a little more of a hunk in porn? They want the male characters to be more attractive. They want the male characters to be more powerful or more charismatic and overall better at everything. But you do the same thing for a female character. Men want the same thing from a female character. Suddenly, it's not made for you. It's suddenly it's misogynistic. Let's see here. And then she discussed Pokemon. Finally, we found some animated Pokemon porn. What do you mean finally? Is that your whole goal? Was that something you were looking for? The first scene was between Jesse, Ash, and Pikachu. It was boring. The Jesse, Ash, and Pikachu. They have a Pokemon three-way porn with I think two human characters and a Pokemon. Okay, but it was boring. The second was between Misty, Hypno, and Lickitung. Lickitung. It was horrifying. It was horrifying. Misty, Hypno, and Lickitung. It was horrifying. That's a really good sentence to add in to this context of this conversation. Alexander Mosley, thanks for $1.99. Hermione / Snape was a thing. I've seen some stuff. You've seen some stuff. If that dead eye stare, I've been through it. I've been through it all. I've been through hell and back. Let's see. Hypno uses his hypnosis power for evil, while Lickitung slaps his big wet tongue all over Misty's shorts for some reason. I don't want to have sex with Pokemon, but surely there are more exciting scenarios than being in a threesome with a walking tongue and a magician. Is Hypno? I don't think Hypno is a magician. Let's see here. Well, the topic of the content of the article seemed nonsensical at best, or a desperate attempt to secure views at worst. Gray's confused audiences by including graphic screenshots of the scenes detailed above. These included a screenshot of Hermione Granger engaged in intercourse with Vincent Crabbe, a screenshot of Princess Zelda from Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild being assaulted by a group of Bokoblins, and a cropped image of Misty from Pokemon franchise engaging in hypnotically induced intercourse with Lickitung and a Hypno. According to the established canons of these franchises, the characters featured in these screenshots are physically underage at the time of their depictions. Hermione is no older than 17 in the PlayStation 2 Harry Potter games, as the last release was based on the Half Blood Prince. Princess Zelda is also 17, and Misty appears to be. Oh, what? As depicted as 10? Oh, yeah, they are 10 in the show. I forgot. They are 10. That's really creepy. We kind of forget that they're 10 years old in the show because they do not look 10. But yeah, canonically, Misty, I think, is 10 in the show. While depictions of fictional underage characters engaged in sexual situations remain legal in the United States, Kotaku's use of such images is profoundly hypocritical. The outlet has regularly condemned lolly and shota visuals in video games, claiming that others view them as obvious and creepy fig leaves, i.e., something that conceals and camouflages usually inadequately or dishonestly. Classifies the depiction of a 700-year-old. Yeah, this is the usual excuse, right? Yeah, she looks like a 12-year-old girl. Oh, no, but dude, totally, she's not though. She's actually a 700-year-old demon or something. A 700-year-old demon with the body of a young girl who somehow finds herself in a sexually compromised position. as gross anime things and claimed that removing the blatant sexualization of middle schooler from the world is ended would make the game less offensive. Following the publication of the article and subsequent offense taken to the use of the pictures, Kotaku removed the embedded images and issued an update and an apology. Sorry, we posted images of a of a 10-year-old in a sexual situation. What an apology to make, Kotaku. Editor's note. The story originally the story originally included screenshots from Harry Potter and Pokemon animated porn parodies. We removed these images after readers expressed discomfort over some of the scenes and believe that words can sufficiently explain the material. And I think that a lesson we could take from this chat is that monetizing your porn habits is not always a good idea. So that whenever the next time you want to monetize your pornography habits, think again. Make sure that it's a good make sure that it's a good idea and that you are on the right course in life. Oh, here we go. Here we go. But I don't think it's over yet, chat. I don't think it's over. Let's see here. I'm pretty sure there's more fun to go around. Okay, let's see here. I think we have more Kotaku nonsense. I think we do. Either that or it's just your regular sort of nonsense, but it's the same. It's in the same vein as the nonsense we've covered a little while ago. But of course, it's happened the middle of last year, so you probably already have heard of it. But as I said before, this is not modern morning nonsense. This is just morning nonsense. So let's see. Let's see here. A Japanese artist, Najuko, harassed and accused of racism. Japanese artist accused of racism due to fan art of Pokemon's Nisa. A Japanese fan artist has been subjected to harassment and accusations of racism due to a lighting choice on a drawing of recently announced Pokemon character Nisa, which slightly lightened the tone of her skin color. I remember this was a big one. Rockin' Signal, thanks for $1.99. Wonder Woman, most successful fetish comic ever. Yeah, that wasn't it? Because the guy was really into bondage and everything, and that's why Wonder Woman's main uh, weakness, her original weakness, was being chained up by a man. If she was chained up by a man, she lost all of her powers. That was her original weakness, and it was the guy was really into bondage and I'm not sure if sadomasochism, but he was really into bondage. He was really into bondage. He really liked bondage, and so of course he added that into his creation of Wonder Woman. Let's see here. Nexus 906. Thank you for the 2. Tell that to Shadbase. Tell it to Shadbase. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I will certainly tell it to Shadbase. I'll tell him something. I'll tell him something. Let's see here. On June 13th, artist Najiko shared an image they had drawn of the Pokemon Sword and Shield water type gym leader to their personal Twitter page. For the drawing, Najiko chose a softer, muted palette choice for Nisa, resulting in a stylistic color piece which deviated slightly from the colors displayed in her official works. Yeah, those darn white supremacists from Japan at it again. Those those Nazi white supremacists from Japan. They're just this won't stop with their constant shenanigans. How dare they go off and slightly change skin tone colors of characters because they know how the sun works. And if anyone's going to know how the sun works, it's going to be people from the country of the rising sun. Okay, people. Okay, you woke people for being woke. You sure don't know really how the sun works. You would think being so woke that you would rise with the sun, but you don't. You don't know how it works at all. You don't know. They don't know apparently that if you walk outside, you look a little lighter. Okay, because you don't have the shadows hitting you as much. The image quickly gained traction among Najiko's almost 60,000 Twitter followers, and once the piece was fully circulated across social media, Najiko's post was quickly descended upon by users accusing Najiko of whitewashing and racism. Again, with the whitewashing and racism, they're really sensitive about that. This is a Japanese product made by a Japanese character. I mean, by a Japanese artist, a fan artist, a Japanese fan artist making a fan work about a Japanese work. Okay, aren't you? Aren't you far left woke people all about letting people do what they want? Uh, not telling, not explaining or telling minorities what to do. If you came over here, he would be considered a minority. And these woke people consider whole continents minority. If they're not white, they're a minority. Okay. Lisa is a brown girl. Please make sure your art reflects that. How do you know? Are you the creator? How do you know she's brown? It's like the last time you made this giant fuss, like Kotaku made this giant fuss about a slightly different skin tone because they don't know how the sun works. The Japanese creators of the character said she isn't a brown girl. She is just toned. She is just tanned. Okay, it's just tanned. People can be tanned. It's a thing. It's what happens when you actually stay in the sun for quite some time. You should try it. This would be cute if you got her skin tone correct. Whitewashing is ugly. How do you know it's whitewashing? Prove to me it's whitewashing and not just her being out in the sun. And this media is gone, by the way, because the Twitter bullies did their thing, and some people just aren't prepared or aren't really familiar with Twitter brigades. These woke Twitter brigades will descend upon you en masse, and they will bully you into accepting their way of life, into accepting the way they see things, even though they have no idea what they're talking about. Even they probably know that they have no idea what they're talking about. They just want to stand up for something. They want to have that fake, manufactured moral high ground. You're not a good artist if you can't portray a dark skinned person in a muted color palette. Sorry, not sorry. So we even got some check marks. You got some check marks going after this person. This is the same exact person. It looks exactly the same. She's a little bit lighter. A little bit lighter here. This artist can draw, however, they'd like. However they'd like. I think that's great. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's in the tweet there. But there's always a but, isn't there? There's always a big, big, oversized cottage cheese filled but, isn't there? But acting like they have a grasp of color and value, and that this is an accurate portrayal of her skin tone, is just not correct. Her skin is lighter here. So what? It's not. It's not. It matches the color tone, the color palette of the artist's piece. Okay, I'm surprised this tweet is so dumb. I'm surprised it only got 171 likes. Usually tweets like this on Twitter get 100,000 plus. Why is she so light? Nope. Okay. Okay. So you are the creator there. You are not the creator, but you know exactly what the origins of these characters are. Okay. This is a drawing of a tan white person. What if the character is a tan white person? Black kids can't enjoy seeing themselves in media without y'all sending the message that lighter is better. What? What do you mean? This is one of those I can't enjoy something unless the main character looks like it be nonsense. That's not true. Only if you're very, very egotistical could that possibly be true. That you can't enjoy something if the main character doesn't look like you. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Let's see here. One particular user in a series of now deleted tweets claimed to fix Najiko's art by darkening Nisa's skin color, a half-hearted attempt as the user applies a simple darkening layer to the image rather than utilizing any sort of color theory or artistic effort. And when asked by Najiko to delete the post due to Najiko's policy on reposting the art, the user claimed to be within her right to put Najiko in their place. Fix it for you. Please don't lighten darker skin characters. Thank you. For any reason, it is prohibited to process the illustration and upload it without permission. Please delete your post now. That actually is a right of the artist that they maintain. If you do post someone else's art in a public space, I think they do have the right to ask you not to do that. At least, I mean, they can't really stop you. They have to go through great efforts to stop you, but they can request that you take it down because it is their art piece. It is their art piece, especially since you changed it. And this, by the way, is not enough. Is not enough to claim artistic license on it. Okay, it's not transformative. It's basically the same thing. All you do is darken it a little bit. Actually, I'm within my right since I changed your art in terms of review and criticism and the purpose for learning. I'm not profiting except for putting in your place. It's not transformative. It's not learning either. Following this edit, Najiko reached out directly to the user, only to be met with non-apology in a lecture, because that's always what you get when you face down one of these weirdos. A non-apology in a lecture. Before coming to an agreement with the which resulted in the deletion of the post claiming to have fixed the artwork. However, it was abundantly clear that most users were disgusted with the insults and vitriol being directed towards Najiko, as a significantly larger set of respondents to Najiko's piece are overwhelmingly positive and supportive. Fantastic, fantastic. See, there is good on the internet, chat. There is good. Good does exist. Some people are way too serious with with their politics sometimes. Don't mind them and keep up the good work. Beautiful art. Keep up the great work. Don't mind the overly sensitive people. Keep doing you. This is actually pretty good advice. Uh, just don't give them any mind. Just don't pay attention to them. Let's see. People asking you to change the skin tone don't know how palettes and lighting works. You don't need to change anything. This piece uses a certain palette to suit the style. Sort of reminds me of Warhol's art prints. If anyone has studied art, you may have come across that name. Oh, that guy. Okay. To people saying this is whitewash, she is definitely not whitewashed. It is more uh, pastel color palette, and it's beautiful. Keep doing art. I love it. So it has a good ending. Very happy ending. Fantastic. Fantastic. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay. Now we have a more up to date article. Let's see here. A little bit more up to date. We're getting more into the modern era. Still plenty of nonsense to go around. Plenty of nonsense. Turns out RuneScape announces diversity improvements that break established lore. Now, I'm not a fan of RuneScape. I have heard of it. Never played it though. But I think we can appreciate nonetheless the absolute nonsense this is bound to take us. Let's see here. RuneScape developer Jagex released patched notes in this past Monday, highlighting a heap of changes. Among the changes are an entire section labeled diversity improvements. There's an entire section in these patch notes labeled diversity improvements. Well, isn't that just promising? It's not just a tweak or two. They made an entire section of patch notes dedicated to their diversity improvements. Let's see here. In this diversity improvement section, Jagex explains they will be removing the word gypsy from the game because it could be interpreted as a racial slur. They're also changing NPC names and Karamja to give them more appropriate titles. Other NPCs in the Caridian Desert had their name changed from Ali to better reflect the diverse variety of names to see we see in real life. No one's named Ali in a desert. They also they also detailed that some dialogue in the Kindred Spirits quest has been altered to remove unintended offenses. Stop worrying about offending people. Okay, you can't really create good art unless you're not worried about offending people. Okay, in order to put something out there that has any substance, or in order to create something that has any substance at all, you have to risk being able to offend people. You have to risk offending people. You have to risk people getting offended. Let's see here. Let's see here. Variety of names in real life. And let's see here. You can see a screenshot of diversity improvement section below. Let's see. Diversity improvements. We're holding our hands up on this one. In the past, we could have done a better job of fostering diversity in game, but as they say, The best time to get started is now, and so today we've made the following small changes to help RuneScape be a happier and more inclusive place. Those are the red flags to show you diversity, inclusivity. The way they use them today, that tells you that they're going to be putting politics before story. Politics first, everyone, and toxic politics at that. They're going to be calling you Nazi. They're probably going to have some anti-Trump stuff in here too, because why not? Let's see. The word gypsy has been removed from Iris's name and examined text, as the word could be interpreted as a racial slur. Various NPCs and well, we read all this. We pretty much read all this word for word. Jagex explains the reason for these changes is due to a better job of fostering diversity in game. While Jagex did not detail what the changes to the NPC names would be, Reddit user Vape Nation Kleiner detailed that they change a primitive warrior to a skilled warrior. Why? Those are two different things. A primitive warrior, I can instantly tell, is going to be using primitive weapons like a club and maybe a wicker shield or something, like maybe a wooden shield, and probably have no armor. A skilled warrior, I can imagine more like as a samurai, like a very trained, highly skilled samurai who can dispatch foes with a single stroke of his blade. Other changes include jungle savage to jungle dweller, an aggressive native of the Karazi jungle to a native of the Karazi jungle. So they just took out aggressive. You can't have aggression in here. It's just too much for them to handle, I guess. Let's see here. As noted in the changes, they also changed a number of citizens who were named Ali. So there are so many people named Ali they had to change them. Change actually goes against their established canon. This change actually goes against established canon. Citizens change their names to Ali in order to try and inherit the fortune of the mayor of Polnavach. And the mayor of Polnavich left the vast fortune to a person named Ali. However, no one claimed the fortune. Since no one claimed the fortune, the citizens legally changed their names to Ali. That's actually pretty hilarious. In fact, it would it would become tradition in Polnavich to name their children Ali. The established lore had nothing to do with racism or lack of diversity, but instead the greed of a particular set of people hoping to get their hands on someone's inheritance. Let's see. Fans on the RuneScape subreddit are already mocking the changes with one or more popular posts titled "The Last Ali Standing." While these changes might appease people in the social justice community, they rarely bring in new customers or even allow customers to keep their current customers. Or even allow customers to keep their current customers. Okay. And pretty much. They're actually pretty spot on here. What do you make of RuneScape's diversity improvements? I think they're terrible. I think they're going to help ruin the game. I don't know. I never played the game, but I know for a fact that social justice and this diversity nonsense is absolute poison to anything they are injected into. And see what else do we have? What else do we have? Oh, I don't know if you remember, Chad. I don't know if you remember me talking about the James Bond movie, but we have some more news. I have some more news here. 1 second here, and the James Bond movie I call The Passion of the Bond because the way they set it up is going to be they outright said it's going to be a feminist movie. It's going to be a feminist retelling of James Bond. It's going to be a feminist movie for the Me Too era, and they've replaced James Bond with I mean, they're going to have different characters. They're going to make James Bond incompetent and all around dumb, and it doesn't stop there. The politics has taken the lead, has obviously taken the lead, and they're just making it worse. And now they something came out, I think yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. That makes things even more ominous. There's darker clouds on the horizon for the James Bond franchise. James Bond star Daniel Craig admits Donald Trump will be a focus in the upcoming No Time to Die film. Because that really worked for Birds of Prey, didn't it? They keep making Donald Trump the focus and the bad guy. They all fail. They always fail. But isn't this more promising? Because adding in Donald Trump into everything really makes it better. That's why the ratings for everyone who's making fun of Donald Trump are in the toilet. James Bond star Daniel Craig confirmed that the upcoming No Time to Die production will include references to Donald Trump for some reason. I think even people who love Donald Trump are tired of hearing about him every way they turn. Can't people just go to the movies without hearing about Donald Trump for 5 minutes? Can we just do that? Can we just stop talking about Donald Trump for 5 minutes while I pay $9 or more to go see a movie? Maybe even $20 to go see this movie. I'm not here for political lecture. I'm here to watch a James Bond film. Craig spoke with a GQ magazine, which is more than likely was to promote to the upcoming Bond film before it was postponed to November. He told them, "We struggled to keep Trump out of this film." He added, "Well, it's not that bad of a struggle. It's not that hard. Just don't put Trump in the film. Make a different bad guy. Okay, make a different bad guy." But of course, it is there. It's always there, whether it's Trump or whether it's Brexit or whether it's Russian influence on elections or whatever. I'm pretty sure he's saying this with a degree of frustration. Daniel Craig might be as frustrated as we are with this whole woke nonsense, whole woke agenda nonsense. Let's see here. Oh, okay, okay. We struggled to keep Trump out of this film, but of course it's there. It's always there, whether it's Trump or whether it's Brexit or whether it's Russian influences on the elections or whatever. It's always in there. These people are absolutely obsessed. I can sense your frustration to Daniel Craig. Don't worry, I'm right with you there. I can sense your frustrations. Let's see here. Craig didn't stop there. He went on to comment about Brexit and described it as a sort of nihilism. There are British people working in the top industries in the world, and at the top of those industries, we do that. We do that, and we are good at that. And somehow we're kind of breaking all that apart. Whether that's breaking from Europe, there's a sort of nihilism, isn't there? Craig then describes how he sees James Bond. There's something I feel that Bond represents. Someone who's there trying to do the job and doesn't want any I guess beep publicity. And this is a joke because he drives a beep Aston Martin and doesn't all these ridicule and does all these ridiculous things. But these people exist. It's the ambulance. It's the ambulance service. I know it's terribly kind of romantic, but they are people who are just getting on with it and saving people's lives. Here's Daniel Craig. Let's see here. Alexandra Mosley, thanks for the $1.99. Why are British characters tackling U.S. politics? I don't know. I don't know. But it's in there. It's always in there. And see, Craig then despairs how Donald Trump and Boris Johnson conduct themselves. But that's not the way the world works now. It's about humiliating others to save one's own skin, and it's cowardly. Just being cowardly. That's social justice, though. That's the NPC crowd. They're trying to humiliate others by to save their own skins, to save themselves from their own failures, or their own problems. Not only does Craig admit that No Time to Die will have a focus on Donald Trump, but he also details that he was more heavily involved in the writing of the film. He says, "I've kept my mouth shut before, and I've stayed out of it, and I've respected it, and I've regretted it." Uh, why does it have to be focused on Donald Trump? If there was any chance I would ever watch this movie, the moment they mentioned there's going to be we're going to be focusing on Trump, it's going to be a response to Donald Trump. I'm out. I'm done. I'm not going to go see this movie at all. There's less than a 0% chance of me watching this movie. Hex Harper, thanks for the 4.99. How can we expect a sequel where they throw? Can we now expect a sequel where they throw Boris Johnson on the double decker bus? It would be more appropriate. I mean, why don't you stop tackling Trump and start tackling someone else every once in a while? Okay, it's at least change it up a little bit. At least change it up a little bit. Now we can't today. We can't even look at coronavirus news without it being filled to the brim with Trump bashing. Okay, but maybe sometimes I want to look at news about the coronavirus, and I'm not going over there for this Trump bashing, the normal brigade of Trump bashing. It's not any different. It doesn't get any better. It doesn't change. It doesn't add anything to your life. It's just people bashing Trump. Okay, I'm there to learn about the coronavirus. I'm not there to read your failed life. Read about how you hate somebody because your own life is a failure. I'm not there to see that. I'm there to look up news on the coronavirus, but you filled it up with nonsense, absolute nonsense that I do not care about. Let's see here. Writer Phoebe Waller Bridge adds, he is incredibly passionate about the work. Bond is very close to his heart, and he fights for the integrity of the character every step of the way. So that's why we're going to ruin him and humiliate Bond every step of the way. He's going to be passionate of the Bond. Director Cary Fukunaga also stated, Daniel's very adamant that Bond is the driving force in everything. He's the jackhammer. He is tireless. He will work until he's basically crawling home. The latest James Bond film, No Time to Die, has been delayed to November with media reports indicating it's due to the coronavirus. Yeah, I would like to get news on coronavirus every once in a while, but some weirdos just fill up everything about the coronavirus with Trump bashing. And now you're focusing this movie on Trump. Can we give it a rest for at least a little bit? Can you just hold back your political opinions long enough to make a movie? I'm not there for your political tirade. I'm there to watch a James Bond movie. I'm there to watch James Bond take over the next megalomaniac with fish tanks and a golden eye and a bald head and a white suit and an eccentric hideout in some sort of volcano or something. Okay? That's what I'm there to see. I'm not there to see your political. I'm not there to see your Twitter feed turn into a movie. I'm just not. However, recent rumors indicate it would be due to rewrites in Craig's comments regarding Trump actually added fire to those rumors, given how woke films have fared at the box office this past year. Yeah. Did they rewrite this movie so they can add more Trump bashing? They can focus more time on Trump? Is that why they're rewriting stuff? Either way, No Time to Die is expected to release November 25th, 2020. The film will be released in the UK 2020, including the US launch and so on. Not looking good for James Bond. Not looking good at all for any James Bond. Oh, fantastic. It just keeps getting better and better. First of all, they're going to make it a feminist movie. Then they're going to make it a movie for the B2 movement. Now they're going to focus more on Trump. This is getting better and better every day. Let's see. What do we have next? What do we have next? Oh, if any of you are into the comics, the drama concerning comics and the big industry, I think some of you might appreciate this next one. Let's see here. Here we go. Here we go. If you Valiant Comics promotes Heather Antos to senior editor. Heather Antos is a person who got a job as editor, even though she never edited something. She actually went to a friend of hers, and they put together a comic. And the guy said she actually went up to someone in the convention and said, "I want to become an editor." And the guy says, "Well, have you ever edited anything before?" And she goes, "No." And he goes, "I would love to hire you because I could really use an office girlfriend, but you have to at least have edited something before." So she went to a private, the crowdfunded the comic, I think. It did fine. It made like a thousand or two or something like that. I forgot. It's been a while since I've seen this, but she was the editor on there, and she claimed that as a credit. And then she got a job working at one of the most prestigious companies in the comic book industry. But Heather Antos is also the person who was at the center of the milkshake debacle, and the milkshake debacle is basically the dishonesty in video games journalism that was to Gamergate. The milkshake debacle really, really, really was, if not the cause, at least a giant catalyst that sparked Comicsgate, and it was all about them having taken a picture of them having milkshakes instead of doing their jobs, and it was terrible. She basically was handed things because these people are always just handed things. that other people have strived all their lives for. And she eventually left. I think she either left or got fired because she was a terrible editor. She was awful at her job. She's wanted to have that on her credit. I was an editor at Marvel Comics. I was editor here. I was editor there. And that was it. I think rumors are also that Spider Gwen or Gwenpool, one of those two, Gwenpool or Spider Gwen, one of those characters was pretty much a stand-in for Heather Antos, and she became infamous. She's also one of those typical NPC people on Twitter. And here we go. She's been made senior editor. This has been handed senior editor position. Valiant Comics announced that they promoted Heather Antos and Lisa Hawkins to senior editor despite massive losses in sales in 2019, 2018. I mean, if they're having that massive a loss of sales, I mean, why not? In the press release making the announcement, Valiant Comics detailed that as senior editors, Heather and Lisa will play key roles in managing the editorial department, crafting the future of the Valiant universe, overseeing relationships with comic book creators, and much, much more. The press release adds Lisa and Heather both have extensive and acclaimed careers in the comic book industry. Okay. No, they don't have extensive and acclaimed careers. They're acclaimed for being terrible, and their extensiveness goes back a few years because, at least in the Heather Antos' case, she was just handed a job. She was just handed a job. Let's see here. Let's see. Maniac Man 2030 is Heather Antos, whom Gwenpool is based on. That's what I've heard. I've heard that Gwenpool is either Spider Gwen or Gwenpool that was modeled after Heather Antos. Let's see here. And much, much more. The press release adds Lisa and Heather both have extensive and acclaimed careers in the comic book industry. Yeah, they're very good at ruining things. Very good at ruining the comic book industry. They're very good at it. And have been influential in the return of fan favorite Valiant characters, while also establishing completely original properties that explore new areas of the Valiant universe. Okay. Okay. Antos praised Valiant Comics. Valiant has allowed editorial to break tradition and mold in some very exciting ways. Whenever they say break tradition, that always means they got worse. And I could not be more thrilled by taking on a new role alongside my new friend, colleague, Lisa. It always means whenever they say it breaks tradition, it breaks the mold, it changes things, it basically means that they kowtowed to my social justice pressure and gave me more power so I can better ruin the things that you love. And she added, together our goal is to push and lead Valiant Creative further than ever before with new stories, new characters, and of course, new talent from the industry's brightest and best. I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that. 2020 is the year of heroes. Do you know how to write a hero? Because I've seen a lot of woke people write heroes. Those aren't heroes. This is only just the beginning. On Twitter, she simply wrote, "Would you look at that?" Promoted to senior editors, and this is more like it. This is more like it. Uh, uh, People have. She's getting over 1,000 likes on Twitter for that. Hawkins also stated, "I'm superior. I'm used to saying I'm used to the arrogance of these people that I just assumed that she would say I'm superior." But Hawkins also stated, "I'm super excited, super duper excited, like totally super excited, guys, about the opportunity to be part of ever expanding and amazing Valiant universe. I am incredibly blessed and have Heather as my co-pilot, and between us, we know just about everything in comics." She added we complement each other we complement each other very well, and that is evident in the great comics we produce. I am very grateful to be able to help forge a bigger, brighter chapter in Valiant. So keep reading and stay valiant. See, what is this? Okay. Valiant Comics publisher Fred Pierce added, Lisa and Heather will continue to be excellent architects of the Valiant universe. They've done terrific work bringing back our iconic characters and also creating new ones. I'll be excited. It'll be exciting for the Valiant fans to get their hands on these new comics. Valiant confirmed that Hawkins is currently editing Bloodshot, Rye, and is working on multiple titles that have yet to be revealed. Antos is working on Quantum and Woody, the Final Fitness, XO Manowar, Shadow Man, and another fan favorite franchise that will be announced later this year. Antos joined Valiant Comics back in 2019, while Hawkins joined in July 2018. The year before Antos joined, Valiant's January 2018 lineup included Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe #1. Okay, so bibliography, more bibliography. In total, Valiant shipped 32,024 copies from 6 titles. They shipped an average of 5,337 copies per title. Sales retailers from January 2018 and 2020 decreased by. Here's the good stuff, chat. Sales to retailers from January 2018 to January 2020 decreased by nearly 48%. The average number of copies shipped decreased by nearly 40%. Things at Valiant don't look so good. Comic creator John De La Rose believes these decreases are a direct result of Valiant's editorial team. He writes, you look at their editorial across the board, and it's people who are promoting political ideology over great content that fans want, which is what happens when the core business gets replaced with a company that cares more about holding on to movie IPs than they do producing an excellent comic book line. The higher ups don't understand comics; they aren't interested, so they bring in names like Antos to direct without really checking on what made the books great in the first place. I think he might be proven correct by the 48% decrease and the 40% decrease in the comics shipped. Nevertheless, despite the massive decrease, Valiant Comics promoted both Antos and Hawkins to senior editors. I mean, why not? They already had a 48% decrease. What do they have to lose? What do you make of this promotion? It's horrible. You should not have Heather Antos anywhere near your editorial team. She's not really an editor. She just got there because some guy at Marvel Comics, I think, needed an office girlfriend. Titled over the last couple of years, have you noticed a decline in editorial? 48% decline over the past year. That is catastrophic. That is catastrophic. Imagine if over a year, almost half of your profits just evaporate into the air and you still have the same overhead. And you just promoted two new people to senior editor positions. Let's see here. Let's see. So this is not looking good for Valiant. Not looking good for Valiant at all. 48% decrease, same overhead. They either have to stop producing so many comics, or they have to start firing people, or they have to start producing good stories again. I wonder which one's going to be. Otherwise, if they don't do either of those things, if they don't choose or pick one, their company is going to decrease. Imagine another decrease of 48% in sales. That would be also absolutely catastrophic. Without question. You just don't see it. And like I said before, the reason why it's so baffling to us, because all you have to do in our eyes is start just producing good stories and good comics again, get all the woke people and SJWs out of your employ, and just produce quality content again. But as I said before, they can't see this because what they see from their perspective, this 48% drop is a good thing. It's a feature. It's them accomplishing their goals. And while we continue to say that their goal is to destroy the comic book industry, their goal is not really that, I don't think. The goal is to get rid of all the fans who are quote unquote Nazis and bigots. So when they see a 48% drop, when they see a 48% drop in sales, Their reaction is not to be horrified and clutch their chest as a newfound heart attack begins to form inside there. Their reaction is to pop open a bottle of champagne because to them, in their eyes, they didn't. What reality is that they drove off 48% of paying customers. In their eyes, however, they drove off the 48% of customers who are Nazis and bigots. That's why they're so happy. That's why they continue to act so superior, so sassy, that sort of thing. Because they didn't lose 48% of sales. They lost the 48% of the customer base that were evil bigots and Nazis and sexists and misogynists and all that stuff. And that's why they continue to do what they do. Because it's not them who are wrong, it's the people who are turning away that are wrong. And that's why they have the argument, if you don't like it, then just means if you don't like my work, if you don't like the work produced by Marvel in their eyes, then you are a Nazi or a bigot or whatever. And they're happy to see you leave. They continually say to you, do not buy my comic for the slightest disagreement. Hex Harper, thanks for the 5, the 499. The marketing might work on some other planet, but the problem is this is Earth. I am bleeding sales, making me the victor. My sales ship by 48%, making me the victor. I'm sure that your marketing strategy might work on some other planet. I'm sure where you come from, this marketing strategy is brilliant. But here's the problem. This is Earth. I remember that. Kung Pao. That's from Kung Pao. I am bleeding, making me the victor. How about my face to your fist style? Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's go. Let's move on. Let's move on. Uh, other stuff. Other stuff. Now I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna give you a choice, chat. Now I have other articles we can read, but I've been made aware of a video that you might be interested in. And since we have 30 minutes left in the stream, would you like me to cover the video, or would you like me to continue covering these articles? Because the video is Wisecrack's defense of Star Wars, and they're trying to put up it's just an epic bro defense, you know what I mean? And it's an epic storytelling. You're all just too dumb and too ignorant to know that these movies aren't bad. They're just epic storytelling. It's basically a rehash, but a different rehash, like a new, different. It's a brilliant storytelling of defense that you saw in the Ring Theory defense. Okay, it's the same sort of. You're just. It's not bad storytelling. You were all just dumb, sort of thing. So, you want a video or article? And I'll give you a few minutes here, a few seconds. And see, Rock and Sano, thanks for for the $4.99. Thank you very much. The worst part is these groundbreaking stories are boring and or tween romance at least give us something weird like in the Silver Age, Puritans. Yeah, the Silver Age I heard was really, really strange. But I like how wacky it was. The thing about the Silver Age is that they didn't want any mature storytelling. They didn't want any. They wanted basically sanitized, and that's the real problem with the Silver Age. I'm glad it's over, but there were some things I liked about it, like how wacky everything got. I really like that part about it. I can't help it. I personally like that part of it. But where it came from is pretty terrible. Okay, so everyone's saying video. Okay, awesome. We'll cover the video then. We'll cover the video. 1 second. Let me pull it up here. Hopefully, Wisecrack does not crack down on us and snipe my stream down from the heavens. Let's see here. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and. Here we go.
Michael here, ready to peer into the darkest abyss of all. Arguments about Star Wars. The Rise of Skywalker burst into theaters and perhaps unsurprisingly, left public opinion more split than Darth Maul. Like The Last Jedi before it, The Rise of Skywalker seems to be a...
By the way, Chad, I kind of scrolled through this video before the stream, just in case I would cover it, and I could have skipped over that joke, but if I had to suffer it, you all have to suffer it too, okay? I am the literature devil after all. So we can all suffer through that joke together. Rock and Snail, thanks for $1.99. Wisecrack in a nutshell. It's nihilism, bro. Yeah. Yeah, it's a nihilism. Especially the mindset of everyone who created Star Wars too. At least Ryan Johnson's mindset. For some reason, I have no idea why, but the modern consensus seems to be that if it's nihilistic, therefore it is brilliant. Okay, nihilism does not equal brilliance in a movie. But so for some reason, a lot of people think that it was. There's a big subset of people who think just because nihilism is in a movie means the movie is brilliant. It doesn't. Just like how just because uh something is unexpected in the movie, because it's something subverts your expectations, also doesn't mean it's automatically brilliant. I reconcile this for another $1.99. Dude, the Silver Age had soup mating a dinosaur. I know, it's fantastic. I love how outrageous it got. I can't help it. I know it had Silver Age had Superman have a power where he can shoot little Supermans out of his fingers. It was weird. Let's see here.
Love it or hate it kind of film. Regardless of which camp you fall into, though, there are probably some choices in the movie that irk you. Maybe it was the new narrative reveals, or maybe it was the way the film handled or mishandled the choices of the previous installments. But what if all of these arguments miss the real point? What if the way to look at Star Wars is not as a series of good and bad choices designed to make us eternally rage, but as part of a long storytelling tradition? That is to say, what if we view Star Wars as an epic? And could dusting off some King Arthur manuscripts help us?
What you're gonna say? He's gonna say that Star Wars is an epic? You don't say. You don't say. Yes, of course, Star Wars is an epic. Of course it is. It's not some brilliant thing you came up across. It's been an epic since it started pumping out multiple trilogies. And I think it's been an epic since the original trilogy. You could technically classify it as an epic. But ever since the prequel trilogy came out, it's more or less been in the style of an epic. Okay, a saga. It's got sagas in there. So yeah, there you go.
Finally come to terms with the sequel trilogy as a whole? Let's find out in this Wisecrack edition on the Rise of Skywalker. And heads up, spoiler alert for pretty much all of Star Wars ahead. But before we get into that, I gotta give it up to Honey. Honey is the free browser extension that automatically applies discounts to save you money when you shop online. There's one thing, my favorite shoe.
Right, because Sky really loves Honey. See if we can skip past it. Steve, we can skip past this little ad they got going on. If it decides to load again, I guess that even the internet
Gift cards to other stores online. It's so check it out. Honey has already saved a day to start saving. That's join Honey about a lack of originality and apparent disrespect to. While the sequels were generally better received than the prequels, they've still attracted an array of criticisms. Fans and critics alike have been vocal about a lack of originality, an apparent disrespect to what came before, an overabundance of fan service, and a lack.
I wonder why. Maybe because the sequel films were overflowing with lack of originality and disrespect for what came before.
Of character development for fans both old and new. This ongoing discourse is manifested in increasingly less impressive box office earnings for each installment of the series. With all that said, it'd be natural to have a somewhat pessimistic view for the future of the Star Wars franchise. With a warring fan base, a burned out audience, and sketchy corporate overlords, is Star Wars doomed? We're gonna go ahead and say, nah. And not just because we're...
I don't know, it's looking pretty bad. It's looking pretty bad. I don't think there's ever been a time in Star Wars history where the consumer, where the Star Wars fan felt so apathetic toward the things they love. Insult to the human race, thanks to the 5. Here's some money. Good luck with this video. It gets really stupid. Oh, I know. I went through a bunch of this video before the stream. It gets it's pretty phenomenal how they bend and break to make this video work, to make their argument work. It doesn't. It doesn't in the least. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Reckless optimists. That's because the so-called problems that have and likely will continue to plague Star Wars aren't new at all. It could even be argued that our biggest complaints about Star Wars aren't flaws. In fact, they're firmly established aspects of epic storytelling.
Yeah, those terrible things that you hate about the Star Wars sequels, they're not flaws. They're features. Same mindset. Same exact mindset. You know those things that you hate? Well, it's because they're actually brilliant pieces of writing, You hate them because you're too stupid to recognize that. That's always their argument. Is that it wasn't bad writing. We're just too dumb. That's their always go-to excuse. Everyone else is too dumb. They're the smart, big brain people, and the rest of us deluded masses, we're just too dumb for our own good. So we can't recognize how brilliant their blatant ripoffs of the original trilogy was.
By epic, we not only mean the long narrative poems like Beowulf and the Odyssey, but the other non-poem stories that resemble them and have a knack for being retold.
Bad idea. That was a mistake. Let's go ahead and just move back, chat. Let's go over this real quick. Oh no, it's too dumb. The the points were so dumb they broke the internet. It broke the internet, chat. Hold on. We'll get this. We'll get through this. So I just want to see what
Aspects of
Here we
epic
go.
storytelling.
I just want to see what examples he brings up, and we'll keep these in mind. Okay, we'll keep these in mind. I think he touches base on them again.
By epic, we not only mean the long narrative poems like Beowulf and the Odyssey, but the other
Beowulf and the Odyssey. Now this will be interesting. This will be interesting. Beowulf is fantastic. I love Beowulf. It's really good. It's actually changed and evolved with the times, with the aspect of religion being introduced, and then we had the aspects of Cain, and the Odyssey. The Odyssey was an epic in and of itself. It just followed Odysseus. Now you can say it spanned, it overflowed from the Odyssey because the first one was the Iliad, which was the Battle of Troy, and then you have the Odyssey, which is what happened to Odysseus at the Battle of Troy, and then I believe something that coincided with that was the Iliad. Oh no, the Aeneid, which is Aeneas's travel from Troy as he led his people to eventually found Rome. But we'll see. We'll see what he says. We're going to go over it. But remember, the Odyssey. He brings up the Odyssey. He brings up Beowulf.
non-poem stories that resemble them and have a knack for being retold over and over again. First, let's get the similarities between the Skywalker saga and historical epics out of the way. Star Wars has captured our collective attention.
By the way, he's going to go ahead and he's going to define some things. He's going to go over some terms, at least one major term, and we're going to stick with his definition as we go throughout this video. Okay, I'm not going to use my own definition or anything. I'm going to use his words to judge his own argument. That's where we're going. That's a strategy we're going to go with.
For more than 40 years. And there's every reason to assume that it will continue to be passed down from generation to generation, much like the tales of old. The story and its characters are so thoroughly integrated into pop culture that everyone knows what Darth Vader sounds like when he breathes, or what a lightsaber is, even if you've never seen a Star Wars movie. It's kind of like how, even if you've never read Homer or Virgil, you know what an Achilles heel or Trojan horse is. But that's not the only way the Skywalker saga mirrors ancient epics. It borrows classic epic storytelling techniques as well. To understand how, let's look to scholars Barbara Graziosi and Johannes Haubold and their analysis of Homer's work. As you may know, Homer was the author long attributed to ancient Greek stories such as the Odyssey and the Iliad. We once thought that Homer was a single person, a one-man story machine churning out culture-defining works. But now scholars mostly believe that Homer was in fact a pseudonym for a group of storytellers who built upon, strengthened, and further developed each other's work. Graziosi and Haubold developed a theory of resonance to
Okay, here's where we're going to pay attention, chat. Okay, the theory of resonance. This is what the main thing is going to predicate a lot of his argumentation on. Let's see here. A Semantic Dragon. Beowulf is most famous as the first English language story. I think that's true, but it's really old English. I actually have a copy that has the original English on one side and then a more modern English on the other side. That the old English that was Beowulf was written in is almost incomprehensible. It's just chicken scratch. It looks really strange, but yeah, I think that might be true, and that's why one of the more significant aspects of that story. RES SGD, thanks for the 2. Time to unsub from Wisecrack. I really like Wisecrack too. I was hoping that they would be the one pop culture site that didn't sink this low. It wouldn't sink to woke nonsense, because I really liked Thug Notes. I like watching Thug Notes. It's a wonderful series. I really like that. Thug Notes was fantastic. I'm not sure if he still does it anymore, but I always liked that show. And I thought Wisecrack would be immune from this infection, but I guess nothing really is if you allow it to enter into the pool of entertainment underneath your sigil, underneath your logo. Let's see here. So okay, resonance. Keep remember resonance, story resonance, because this is remember his definition he's going to give. Remember his explanation he's going to give, because it it pretty much contradicts what what he gives as examples. Let's see here. Okay, so let's go through this. We'll give it an honest look. Okay, because in a world of lies, honesty is your best policy. Honesty is your best weapon. We're going to give this honest look. So we're going to take in what he says, and we're going to judge his argumentation by his own words. And here we go.
Describe the way these disparate storytellers worked together. They argue that in order to maintain a consistent world and a single authorial voice, the various storytellers employed specific narrative features in each new tale. These techniques included starting a story mid-scene, or repeating specific phrases like high-hearted men and swift-footed Achilles, or using precise formulas to introduce characters or speeches. Even the precise
So we can break this without breaking the internet. So we can do this without breaking the internet. But the Iliad was a fantastic crossover fanfic. The Iliad was a fantastic crossover fanfic. I loved it because everyone should always read the Greek myths. They are very lovely. They're lovely, lovely, lovely. A lot of fun in those things because obviously they're fun stories. The tellers of those tales do not hold back, and they're obviously not woke. So all the way around, fantastic stuff. But thank you for the chat, Rocco Insano. Thank you very much. Might have been muted that first time. Let's see here. I guess we're going to just press play. It's. I think the internet just kind of buckled under the the immense weight of this thing. All right, hold on, chat. All right, so let's go ahead and rewind this back to this. I'll share the screen again, and it should work. Go ahead and set it back up. And here we go. Make sure it's sharing audio. And here we go.
Graziosi and Haubel developed a theory of resonance to describe the way these disparate storytellers worked together. They argue that in order to maintain a consistent world and a single authorial voice, the various storytellers employed specific narrative features in each new tale. These techniques included starting a story mid-scene, or repeating specific phrases like high-hearted men and swift-footed Achilles, or using precise formulas to introduce characters or speeches. Even the precise way a hero undressed was ritualized and repeated from story to story. The use of resonance told the audience that this story was part of the Homeric tradition and connected.
Okay, so those are the examples he gave. The repetition of phrases like high-hearted men, swift Achilles, the repetition of how heroes undressed themselves because it was unique to how those heroes acted. It was unique to those personalities. They wanted these myths to remain consistent between authors, which is why those authors kind of became a cabal, so that if one guy was writing about Achilles and the other guy was writing about Achilles, it's basically an editorial team for like DC Comics, right? If you're going to write about Superman, they want to make sure this other person over here writing about Superman keeps consistent with the Superman mythos. They basically were like an editorial team running Greek myth comics or something, without the comics part. but they're basically making sure that everything remained consistent and uniform, which is what the comic editorial team does. And but do you remember what exactly he said? Why? How come every time I pause this, how come every time I pause this video, he's always giving us a look of disgust? Like every single time. There's that one time that I paused this video where he wasn't giving us a look of utter, complete disgust. I have no idea why. That's a disgust. That's a disgust face. I give you smell garbage. That's the face you make. Does that room smell really bad or something? Because I'm pretty sure it's not his farts. I'm pretty sure he loves his own farts. I'm pretty sure he loves to huff his own farts. So I'm pretty sure it's not the Taco Bell he ate yesterday. But just keep that in mind. Okay, keep that in mind, chat. Story resonance, according to his own words and his own sources that he brought to the table, a story resonance is more or less something like a repetition of phrase, so that you can introduce the hero in the same way every time, how they move the same time, how they undress the same way, in a ritualized status. Okay, so that these things may remain consistent. But remember that it's really more along the lines of how Superman and Batman remain consistent. Okay, that's pretty much the same what he says, how he describes it. So here we go.
To past and future Homeric stories. At the same time, it implicitly promised the audience a specific experience. Like the Odyssey, Star Wars is a saga helmed by various authors, namely George Lucas but worse,
I don't like sand.
J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. And like the Odyssey, Star Wars used resonance to remain coherent. This is instantly apparent the moment a Star Wars film begins, and the bright yellow.
Okay, with the moment he's going to talk about King Arthur in a minute. The moment he adds that in and couples it with the Greek myths, I'm surprised no one's stepped back at this script and said, "Hold on, this is dumb." Okay, because his historical references are significant and they're well known, but he's pairing Greek myths and the Arthurian legends with Star Wars. Okay, you'll see why this is nonsense in a second. Let's continue.
Yellow text scrolls inexplicably through space while the
I mean, you probably already know why it is nonsense, but we will go over why it is nonsense in a second. Okay.
iconic score plays. More examples of resonance are peppered throughout each film. These range from scene transitions, to character archetypes like the tragic hero, or the sage mentor, to visual homages that deliberately evoke earlier films in the series. First Lucas and now his successors deliberately used these resonances to establish.
It's not really story resonance though, as he's described it. Those are more like ring theory composition stuff. Resonance, as he described it, is always a repetition. He's described it as things that are always done so that the reader or the listener can recognize who this person is. So Swift Achilles, and then came Swift Achilles, and then Swift Achilles killed what's his name or whatever. Okay, and then you had Achilles undress himself by doing this and this and this and then this ritualized undressings, and then you have things like high-hearted men. These are high-hearted men. These are vernacular that have become familiarized within the Greek culture of that time. High-hearted men. Okay, that's what they used it as. These the thing he's talking about here are images and scene transitions. That is not story resonance as he himself described it. Okay, but I'm gonna read the super chat real quick, and I'll explain a little bit more. Criminal Imagination, thank you very much for the 5. Why edit to make things correct when you can just take the Disney bucks? Exactly. and then pay people to defend your colossal mishandling of an age-old franchise. But here's the thing. When it came to story resonance, as he himself described it, it's not scene transitions and stuff. It is things that are attached to certain characters, things that are attached to certain developments and events. So you have high-hearted men, you have swift Achilles, strong or powerful Hercules, or brave Hercules, for example, the Incredible Hulk, the Amazing Spider-Man. These are story resonances, and these specifically work in text, not really so much in the movie. So when you go to a movie, you go to a more visual medium. Okay, your story resonance would be like Darth Vader's helmet. Okay, a Sith helmet maybe. A story resonance would be the corrosive skin that a dark side user would have. That tells you that the the person you're looking at is a dark side user, is a Sith Lord. Okay, so that's story. That's what story resonance would be more like the way he himself described it. In the book form, it'd be like the corrosive skin of the dark side user, the corrosive skin of the dark side user, the decaying form of the dark side user. See, it's the same thing. And the ritualized undressing, you can have a ritualized look into how Jedi and Sith face off against each other and fight. This the two the opposite ends of the Force, the users of the opposite ends of the Force coming together. That could be story resonance too. The Jedi robes, that could also be story resonance, but to more specific aspects. Okay, because he himself used more specific aspects like a swift Achilles. So the more accurate, the most accurate thing I can as an example I can give you as story resonance, and the way he himself described it, would be specifically Darth Vader's outfit, Darth Vader's helmet, and how that will always be the symbol of Darth Vader, even if he's outside of his helmet, even if he's completely naked or whatever. Okay, Darth Vader's helmet would be is a symbol that connects Darth Vader to what we recognize as Darth Vader. It's a kind of a middle ground. And then we have Darth Vader's really pale skin, deathly corpse-like skin. And that could be story resonance too. And but the thing is, in general, when you talk about story resonance, the way he described it, it would not be what he's about to say, like scene transitions and title crawls. Those are elements of storytelling. Those are just like those are tools they use. Not the way he described it. These are a little bit different than the way he described it. And especially, it's definitely not going to be the way he described it in a second. He's going to pull out more examples, and it just gets worse. Rock Salem, thanks for $1.99. A lot of characters you need markers to remember. Yeah. Yeah. If you have lots of characters in your story, you need specific markers and uh and triggers that will uh give a hint to your reader or your audience, the viewer, whatever, to so they can easily connect what character you're talking about. So you might give someone a unique scar. You might give someone a very flamboyant cape or something. And but so the story resonance, what he's talking about, is so that you can have they can deliver a shorthand to the reader or the listener or the audience member as to who is coming in. So you might say, "This is a Swift Achilles appeared." Oh, that's Achilles. I know that guy. Swift Achilles. I know that's specifically Achilles. He's right though about Darth Vader's breathing. Okay, Darth Vader's breathing would be story resonance as he described it, because you can just hear Darth Vader. You can hear the breathing, the iconic breathing of Darth Vader, and you know it's Darth Vader. So that wouldn't actually fit. That one actually it would fit as story resonance as he described it. So let's continue. I think it gets worse from here.
Established Star Wars as a modern epic playing out right before our eyes. In fact, Abrams relies heavily on resonance in The Force Awakens, and even more so in The Rise of Skywalker. The Force Awakens hewed close to A New Hope. Both Luke and Rey are orphans from a desert planet. Both the Death Star and Starkiller Base are man-made planet destroyers, and both the Empire and the First Order are wannabe space fascists.
Okay, so here we go. Okay, so as we said, he described story resonance as pretty much just shorthand and keeping the mythos consistent. Tools to keep the mythos consistent. So you have Swift Achilles, and we have maybe you would have not Darth Vader, but Superman being kind, Superman being moral, from one story to the next, from one writer to the next. Swift Achilles, kind Superman. Okay. This, what he just said, the copying of certain elements, the copying of certain circumstances, the copying of the Death Star blowing up, and then the Starkiller base blowing up, those are not story resonances as he described them. Okay, those are more along the lines of, well, copy and pasting. It was lazy and uninspired because he just copied the first trilogy, but it's more along the lines of ring composition, which pertains more to story rather than uh, the maintaining the consistency of characters and maintaining a unique and identifiable marker for these characters. That's how he describes story resonance on his own. So it's not title crawls, and it's definitely not copying old plot points. Okay, it's either at worst, it is just blatant ripping off other original trilogy because they couldn't think of anything better, and at best, part of ring composition or a haphazard attempt at ring composition. But let's continue and see what else he has to say.
Similarly, The Rise of Skywalker mirrors The Return of the Jedi. Both feature a young Jedi training with a dying mentor. Both begin with the rebels struggling after a crushing defeat, and both feature a Palpatine-concocted showdown between good and evil. Detractors might dismiss this
Yeah, I'm going to dismiss this.
as fan service or, at best, an over-reliance on nostalgia-driven narrative.
You know why we would dismiss this as fan service and an over reliance on nostalgia driven dollar? Because that's exactly what it is. It's not story resonance. It's not keeping intact with the composition of an epic. At best, you could say it's ring composition. It's definitely not story resonance. It's definitely not story resonance. Okay, at least not the way you described it. And like I've said, I've described story resonance the way you described it. I've applied it to this. Doesn't work. Doesn't hold up. You are making things up as you go along. You are making things up as you go along. You put forth what it is, and you defined what you meant by story resonance, and then you put forth examples that have nothing to do with your definition of story resonance. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
But the way Abrams mirrors Lucas actually forges crucial thematic and structural links between the two trilogies. Abrams actually spoke to this during the promotion for The Force Awakens, stating, "We very consciously tried to borrow familiar beats so the rest of the movie could hang on something that we knew was Star Wars." Resonance also explains Abrams' strategic repetition of everything from central themes to incidental dialogue.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
But it doesn't account for the second complaint lodged by Star Wars fans.
Okay, I got a bad feeling about this. You could, I guess, technically make that story resonance, but hitting on the same major themes, I don't think so. That's more along the lines of keeping along the lines of ring composition and story elements, not story resonance as you defined it. Again, wrong.
Why so many inconsistencies? Well, for that, let's jump forward in time to medieval England and visit a very different epic.
Oh, here we go. Here we go, chat. Now it's going to get good.
In legend, or Arthuriana, is what we call the total narrative surrounding King Arthur and his fabled Knights of the Round Table. Arthuriana is a particularly helpful epic for us because we can largely track its development across the centuries. And interestingly enough, it has a lot in common with the development and evolution of Star Wars. The first sustained depiction of the King Arthur legend appeared in the
Okay, chat, this is going to be fantastic. This is Oh, this is fun. This is fantastic. Check this out. You'll be amazed at what they try to pull here.
12th century, when Geoffrey of Monmouth penned The History of the Kings of Britain. For this, Jeff rounded up various fables and presented them as historical facts. The TLDR is, Arthur gets a throne and kingly title, marries Guinevere, fights a whole bunch of Saxons, and chats it up with a wizard named Merlin. Notice the glaring lack of magical swords, circular tables, heroic knights, and extramarital tryst. Not long after, a rogue poet added the Round Table to Arthur's story. In this way, the first Arthurian canon was essentially set. Think of this initial Arthurian canon, called the Matter of Britain, as Lucas-era Star Wars. Both were chiefly guided by...
Okay. Insult to the human race. Thank you very much for the 10. Big problem number one with his current and future points is that we still have the OT, the original trilogy, in tangible form to reference back to and compare, not old tales and oral tellings. Yeah, that's essentially at the heart of why this is nonsense. Because in both the Greek myths and the Arthurian legends, yeah, there are plenty of different authors making their own stories about these essential characters. And you can look into the evolution of King Arthur and how he went from a normal guy to the great Arthurian legend that we know, because it went through a lot of changes. The Arthurian legend went through a lot of changes. It went through several changes according to people's perspectives and changes in the moral construct, or the different views on love or different views on magic, and how Merlin was at first evil and then good and then his friend and mentor, and how things really changed. How certain writers depicted certain characters as good or evil. Like Morgan Le Fay, I believe, was actually someone helpful, and then she turned evil, and then she turned into Arthur's sister. RES SGD, thanks for the 5. I don't get it. The real question: why are channels like Extra Credits, Wisecrack, etc., going nonsensically stupid and woke? They weren't like this before. They weren't. I think I liked all of these channels before. I liked Extra Credits. I liked Wisecrack. I even liked Cracked, but they went really woke really quickly. I have no idea why. It's like and it's the same people pumping out this information, the entertainment. Like you can watch the same person from a few years ago, and they would make edgy jokes that would not be in any way tolerated today in the woke media or the woke this woke atmosphere. But today they're saying that the person they essentially were a few years ago is unacceptable and should be silenced or monitored or downright censored. It's strange. That's why it seems like more like a virus, because it's not just new people coming in; it's the same old people that are changing to fit the woke narrative, and it's pretty disturbing. But here's the thing: when it came to the Greek legends, he had plenty of authors, like you saw with Homer, the Homer Collective, we'll say. But they maintained consistency throughout the myths. Here's the thing with the Arthurian legends: it was many creators adding in new stuff to and then adding new stuff, new stories, new characters, new perspectives, new everything. They added one thing here, one thing there. And but here's the thing: the Arthurian legend is that the best way you can describe it is that I went through reboots. Okay, I went through reboots and reimaginings to put it in modern context, and then it was added. Things were added, and things were swift around and changed, and basically it was reforged into what we know today, with all the different aspects of love and everything. And I think the whole tale with Lancelot and Guinevere, that was actually when it was written as a positive thing. And then when just like with Beowulf, uh, when Christianity got a hold of it, when Christianity became a prevalent perspective, a prevalent set of ideals and morals, and then the Guinevere and Lancelot thing, their little tryst, was still in there, but it was written as bad because it suddenly because adultery became a really big no-no once the church got involved. So yeah, the Arthurian legend went through several changes, but here's the thing: it went through reboots, reimaginings, to put in modern terms, reboots and reimaginings, and it was built upon. Okay, and it was several stories, a collection of stories, different tales that you could say, oh look, this is Percival's story, this is Lancelot's story, this is King Arthur's story. The problem with Star Wars movies is there's supposed to be one ongoing saga. You have the prequel saga, the Clone Wars, you have the original trilogy, the Empire, the Galactic Civil War. Basically, you have the Clone Wars saga, the Galactic Civil War, and whatever it is the Disney sequel is supposed to be. It's one ongoing story. Okay, it's not a collection of stories following different characters that we all know. That's why does it really work so well? I'm reconciling for $1.99. It's almost like something happened 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, almost. Let's see. Let's see if I can do this without breaking the internet.
Think of this initial Arthurian canon called the Matter of Britain as Lucas era Star Wars. Both were chiefly guided by one.
Yeah, he's trying to say that the original canon of King Arthur was Lucas era Star Wars. It's not a good comparison. It's like I said, the original canon of King Arthur remained the original canon of King Arthur more or less. It just changed over time. Lucas, if you're going to compare Lucas era of Star Wars to Disney era, it's not the same thing changing over time. It's not you're adding more to Luke Skywalker series. It's not you've added now Luke Skywalker has 2 lightsabers or something. Or now Luke Skywalker has a round table and he has the whole Order of Knights at his back in the original trilogy. No, No, it's the original trilogy stays intact. You're just adding more stories with different characters. It's not changing, and you're not respecting the past. 'Cause at least with if you're changing the things to more to as basically as revisions, as better stories and things, and people like these stories better. Basically revising things, and it becomes the main source of canon. So the better comparison would be if you change the original Star Wars trilogy to become different, then you can change. Then you can make the comparison. Change from the original George Lucas original trilogy to the more updated George Lucas original trilogy, which is pretty terrible because it just adds more junk on the screen.
One person who crafted a unified canon, though in Monmouth's case, he synthesized quite a bit of folksy miscellanea. Disney even referred to the Lucas era movies as immovable objects when they acquired Lucasfilm. But obviously the Skywalker saga didn't end with Lucas, and Arthuriana was just getting started with Jeff. Over time, new storytellers added more and more to the Arthurian soup, their tales spreading
Yeah, that's a good point. The original Legends of Arthur were pretty much mix and match. It was a big scatter gunshot of stories everywhere. There was myths here and myths there, stories here and stories there, and there was no consolidated uh, timeline of King Arthur. It wasn't until I believe since you mentioned Monmouth, I think it was him. Look at it real quick. I think he was the one who wrote the Morte Arthurs. Let me see here. Let me see if I get this accurate. But if it was him, then yeah, I think he was the one guy who actually consolidated all the best parts. Basically, he kind of invented the main source of canon. So to put it to make their sort of comparison, he is basically George Lucas of King Arthur. Even though King George Lucas did not piece together different stories of Luke Skywalker, uh, if he's the guy who wrote the Morte Arthur, I think he might be. Let me see here. Let me check it out real quick. But yeah, because there was in the beginning, there were tons of no. Thomas Mallory did that. But if he said that, since he said Mallory was the guy who no, wait a minute, wait a minute. I think I got it right. I got it right. Yeah. Let me go back real quick just for accuracy's sake.
when they acquired Lucasfilm. But obviously the Skywalker saga didn't end with Lucas, and Arthuriana was just getting started with Jeff. Over time, new storytellers added more and more to the Arthurian soup, their tales spreading organically and influencing one another. The more popular any new addition to the legend seemed, the more it was incorporated into subsequent tales. The best example of this was Chrétien de Troyes' introduction of the Holy Grail and the cuckolding Lancelot. In this way, a democrat crafted a unified canon. Not long after, a rogue poet added the Round Table to Arthur's story. In this way, the first Arthurian canon was essentially set. Think of this initial Arthurian canon, called the Matter of Britain, as Lucas-era Star Wars. Both were chiefly guided by one person who crafted a unified canon, though in Monmouth's case, he synthesized quite a bit of folksy miscellanea. Disney even referred to the Lucas-era movies as
Yeah. So whether who did it or not, it doesn't really matter. The thing is, what essentially happened with King Arthur was that someone unified the canon because there was a bunch of scattershotted little stories about King Arthur, and there was no real unified canon. So basically, what the Homer Cabal did to the Greek myths, the same thing sort of happened with King Arthur, and they kind of just people over time kind of just evolved it by picking out the favorite parts of the canon, the favorite parts of the myth, and just kind of sticking it all together. And that became eventually evolved into the main canon of Arthurian legend. Charles Bosserman, thanks for the 5. The entire Star Wars saga has to be compared to the single original Arthurian legend. More stories added on could be considered different. Yeah. Yeah, like you said, the entire Star Wars saga has to be compared to the single original Arthurian legend. More stories added on could be considered different. Exactly. So the original Arthurian legend is, like you said. Let me see here. The original story of King Arthur, the original legend, became canon, and that was the legend everyone knows, the legend everyone loves. It wasn't ever the fact that it's because Star Wars didn't change. The original trilogy of Star Wars did not change like King Arthur's canon did, because King Arthur's canon remained kind of consistent. Or not consistent, but it remained sort of from its very first inception to the very first stories of King Arthur, it kind of evolved over time. It added people add on stories, their own personalities, their own unique perspectives, their own their own OCs in some cases, and that's how essentially how it went. The major difference is that while King Arthur, the core central mythos of King Arthur, kind of just remained. It was kind of consolidated and kind of just changed over time as perspectives and values changed, moral values changed. It was not a continuing story either. Okay, it was a scatter. It was a bunch of stories and tales and different events over time. And you can add on new stories to the Arthurian legend, and you can fit it right into the canon because it could easily fit within how the style went. Epic knights going on epic quests, and that would totally fit. But this is different because the entirety of the Star Wars saga is just one giant story from the beginning of the Clone Wars, which is like the Emperor Palpatine before he rose to power, the Galactic Civil War, which is Palpatine at the height of his power, and then the Disney sequels, which is a really convoluted mess of I don't know what. That's essentially how it goes. Okay, they call it the Star Wars saga. It's a saga. Okay, it's not the Arthurian legend. It's a bunch of stories put together, and you can read one, you can read two, you can read them out of order. In some cases, as it matters, just things happen in certain events, but it's not really one continuously long story. Not fighting one continuous bad guy. It's more like a television show or something. But the Star Wars Skywalker saga, different in that case. It's just one focused story. One focused story. So thank you very much for the 5. Appreciate it.
Movable objects when they acquired Lucasfilm. But obviously the Skywalker saga didn't end with Lucas, and Arthuriana was just getting started with Jeff. Over time, new storytellers added more and more to the Arthurian soup, their tales spreading organically and influencing one another. The more popular any new addition to the legend seemed, the more it was incorporated into subsequent tales. The best example of this was Chrétien de Troyes' introduction of the Holy Grail and the cuckolding Lancelot. In this way, a democratic process of storytelling crafted an updated Arthurian legend. Different authors had various reasons for their additions to the canon. Notably, de Troyes geared his work towards the taste of the French court, which fancied itself quite chivalrous. Thus, de Troyes' stories upheld good knightly virtues like courtly love. Authors like de Troyes and Thomas Malory memorialized the resulting canon in complete coherent manuscripts that were published widely. Again, this mirrors the evolution of the Star Wars canon and the way it's expanding. Though Lucas was historically—
No. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mirror the Star Wars how it became canon. We hear that again. Oh, great. Now we're going to have to load it back up. But I don't think so. I don't think so because he's like he said. He even said it himself. The original canon of King Arthur was just built upon. They would just kept adding more and more mythos to it.
That were published widely. Again, this mirrors the evolution of the Star Wars canon and the way it's expanded.
Okay, so he directly said that King Arthur's canon was consolidated and then evolved by people adding in new features and new aspects to it, like courtly love and not courtly love. And then they had they added in the Holy Grail, the religious aspects. There were elements added on to already existing characters and stories. The additions, okay, they're additions. How he's saying that this is exactly how the Star Wars canon developed. It certainly was not. It certainly was not. Okay, they did not go in and add in new additions to the already existing Luke Skywalker story. Did not move in and go to the original trilogy and add and then retell it the exact same story with new perspectives and new moral values. They added on new stories with new characters that stole things that already happened in already existing stories. Okay, so let me put it like this. What actually happened was more like if someone came along and created a new King Arthur, maybe King Arthur's son, and then had his best friend, or then the King Arthur's son married his childhood friend or something, and then his best friend ran off with his childhood friend because they had a falling out. that's what's more. That's a better comparison to what happened with the Star Wars. Okay, it's a rehash, a ripping off of already established, better told stories because you can't think of something new.
Though Lucas was historically hands-off with the Star Wars extended universe that sprang up after the original trilogy, he did start to
Exactly. The canon of King Arthur didn't change. People built new stories, basically fan fiction of original that people believed to be canon. Star Wars was one canon, just expanding it. Exactly. Exactly. So the canon remained the same of King Arthur ever since it was consolidated, and they had everyone agreed on one major set of rules, basically more or less. Uh, they ever since it was made canon, it stayed the same. Okay, it stayed more or less the same. It was just people just kept adding things to it and manipulating a little bit, but the story was essentially the same, just with more polish or maybe a different outfit on. But it was same characters, same developments. Star Wars, he's starting to argue that because Star Wars added something new, so added something new, additional stories, it was the same as adding something new to original stories. It isn't. It's totally, completely different. Charles Bosserman, I thought of it more like Arthurian Legends, more like an anthology, while Star Wars is kind of like a series or of novels. Exactly, and that's a big difference. That's uh, a big flaw in his argumentation because both the Greek myths and the development of the Arthurian Legends, anthologies of stories. Star Wars movies, one continuous story, one continuous saga. Big difference here. Huge difference. He should have picked different. He should have picked better comparisons because these do not work to. These do not work with each other the way he's using them here. They do not, and the fact that he's using these for examples really, really hurts his argument. RESGD takes for the 10. I wanted to add, yes, the new story by other authors that continue the OT, the original trilogy, and the old EU expanded universe continuity makes sense. Not Disney BS. Old Georgie gives creative license to the authors who write actual story. Exactly. 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 Fantastic. I'll read that again. I'll read the first part of that. I want to add, yes, new story by other authors that continue the OT and the EU or continuity makes sense. Exactly. Because they are building off the original story. They're making the new stories. They're not adding on to new things. They are a good example of how Star Wars actually goes, building off of a story in a continuous tale. Okay, that's what Star Wars was evolved into, a one continuous saga. And the from what I understand, the EU expands on that saga, whether it be continuing the adventures of Luke Skywalker or diving into what happened when we're not when what happened outside the Luke Skywalker saga, like what happened with the gunner of the Death Star, what was going through his mind, things like that. They expand on it, they add to it, but they do not change it. They do not alter the original form. They do not alter the original trilogy. With the original trilogy at this point should be considered sacred now. I mean, you should not, because that's the only piece of Star Wars movie that really made an impact. It was really, really good. But unlike Arthur, unlike the Arthurian legends, Star Wars was not changed by adding on new features. It was changed by adding on new entire stories and in new entire sagas or sections of a saga. Alex Hale, thanks for the 5. Saber, female Arthur, from the Fate series. How is there a female King Arthur? It doesn't make any sense. I don't always understand anime. As Saber, female Arthur from the Fate series, never tried to insult to or replace the original, unlike Disney, who does that to Star Wars. Oh, that's nice. Well, I'll give it that. That sounds good. Sounds good. I like that. That's one of the things I always say. If you're going to make a continuation of someone else's story, you have to and must respect what had come before. So let's continue.
incorporates some of these new elements into the prequels. For example, Aayla Secura, Coruscant, and Dooku's curved lightsaber hilt were all developed by different authors, but Lucas was a fan and, with permission, adopted them. And just like post-Jeff King Arthur storytellers, die-hard franchise geeks Abrams and Johnson creatively expanded the canon. Whereas Detroit imbued Arthuriana with
I'm going to need some references for that. I'm pretty sure that at least Ryan Johnson is not a Star Wars franchise geek.
love, Abrams and Johnson made contributions rooted in their individual philosophies about Star Wars. Of course, they have very
Do I have to explain this again, chat? I mean, come on. This is not what happened in King Arthur. Okay, Ryan Johnson not just retell the original trilogy of Star Wars, adding in his nonsense political stances. He did not retell the story of Luke Skywalker with an anti-capitalist view. Okay, he added a whole new story. It's not the same. It's not the same as how the Arthurian legend evolved and how Star Wars evolved. Two completely different evolution cycles.
very different philosophies. Abrams is all about evoking that warm, fuzzy feeling that we all got when we watched our first Star Wars film. Johnson, on the other hand, seems more inclined to explore the complexities of both the characters and the universe. He wants to surprise us as much as that time Vader dropped the old paternity bomb on Luke.
No. I am your father.
It's ultimately an issue of heart versus head, and each interpretation is as valid or invalid as the other. But combine them into one trilogy, and you get a series of conflicting interpretations and clashing ideologies. You can even sense a sort of jostling for power from film to film. In particular, the last two films take previous plots and characters and either ignore, redirect, or straight up bisect them. Arguably, this worked to the detriment of the trilogy as a whole. With this
Yeah, it did. It did. It not only did it make the sequel trilogy suffer, it made all the trilogies suffer. All three trilogies suffer immensely. It would be better if we just all forgot about the Disney sequels. It would repair so much stuff. I would take the prequels any day over the sequels. Let's see here. There we go.
mind, let's take a look at where Arthuriana and Star Wars start to diverge, and what makes this whole thing
You mean right at the beginning? Okay, we'll look at right at the beginning of both.
tricky. Intellectual property laws. You know, those laws that let us buy and sell ideas. These didn't exist way back when. No one ever received a strongly worded cease and desist letter for writing a story about King Arthur and his magical sword. But today, Disney owns Star Wars, for better or worse. The franchise is their property, and that makes them the gatekeepers. That means they get to determine what stories do or don't earn a permanent place in the lore. Consequently, they can decanonize thousands of pages of stories with a simple press release. At first, they were pretty laissez-faire, allowing Abrams and Johnson, respectively, to make The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi on their terms. The subsequent backlash compelled Disney to tighten their grip in Episode 9. That led to some serious backpedaling on previously introduced story elements.
Good job, Ryan Johnson. You ruined it for everybody, even the creators of Star Wars. So when Disney started out, apparently, they said, "Oh, you just creators, you do your thing. You make Star Wars great." And J.J. Abrams came out with his movie, and then Ryan Johnson came out with his movie, and then after Ryan Johnson came out with his movie, Disney says, "Whoa, hold on. We said make Star Wars great, not ruin Star Wars. Get out of here, Ryan Johnson." And we're bringing back J.J. Abrams, and J.J. Abrams, you're gonna be on a tight leash, and much shorter than it was originally. So you are going to be our puppet. You do what we say. You have no creative freedom. So not only did Ryan Johnson ruin Star Wars and ruin the experience for most people who watched The Last Jedi, he also ruined everything. He also ruined the atmosphere of freedom that Disney allowed Star Wars creators. So I'm glad Ryan Johnson ruined it for absolutely everybody.
And some arguably overzealous course correcting. Now, this would be totally chill if we were going by medieval standards of storytelling, but thankfully knights in smelly armor are no longer a thing, and these days, our society is completely saturated with media. As a result, we are a pretty savvy audience with more sophisticated standards when it comes to world building and storytelling. Hell, if we weren't, then this channel probably wouldn't even be a thing. Sure, multiple interpretations could peacefully coexist in Arthuriana, but in Star Wars, the conflicts within the canon and the scenes of rebuttal create a storytelling discord that is glaringly apparent to the audience. That discord is compounded by the fact that we're all consuming the exact same version of Star Wars, instead of, hitting up our favorite local bard for a new, possibly inconsistent retelling. In the age of mass media, we're not as willing to forgive inconsistencies as the great Homeric fandom was.
So let me get this straight. Okay. His next argument, if all else fails, this last argument of his video is, well, if you didn't believe any of that nonsense I just spewed out for the last few minutes, then the real reason why you're all upset about Star Wars and why you're wrong about being upset about modern Star Wars is that your standards are just way too high. And I've actually, believe it or not, I've actually seen this argument before, and it's actually an argument they commonly use. Your standards are just way too high. It's a good movie that your standards are just way too high. So the argument went from you're too stupid to you're too strict. You're too needy. All right. That's what it went to. That's the usual argumentation. So which one is it, chat? Are we too stupid, or are our standards just way too high? Are we just too spoiled these days? Oh, let's finish this nonsense.
So, while Star Wars suffers from the same repetitions and inconsistencies of your classic epic, it does so in an extremely media-conscious society, where every decision is held up to a Reddit thread microscope. Viewed in this light, is it really all that surprising that The Rise of Skywalker hasn't pleased everyone? Star Wars is positioned as a modern myth, and uses the same—
Did The Rise of Skywalker please anyone? I mean, unironically? Because I kind of like the movie, ironically, because it's so bad. It's just a complete and utter mess of a movie that it was just a pleasure to watch. And it was so ludicrously absurd. And also, it didn't have any of that. I'm going to spit in the fans' face. It didn't have any middle fingers to the fans, other than they brought back Palpatine. That's kind of something they had to go with because of Ryan Johnson ruined everything. But other than that, it was just it was a lot of fan service. They're trying to repair a lot of damage that the Last Jedi did, and it spat in the face of Last Jedi. So it helped us get our comeuppance. So it was a lot more fun to watch because of how absurdly bad it was. It was kind of like the Room of Star Wars. That's why I liked it. But did it actually please anybody? Like unironically, that's what I'm. I mean, I'm not really sure if anyone. I'm pretty sure like it was universally touted as a bad movie. Some people liked it or enjoyed it, and some people didn't. Some people enjoyed it despite it being bad.
storytelling techniques. And yet it's judged by a completely different, more exacting standard than classic epics, myths, and legends ever were. What's more, contemporary storytelling idioms mean that Disney has to maintain a strict, controlled canon for a franchise that seems destined to defy the concept. The Rise of Skywalker and J.J. Abrams worked within the confines of expectation and epic structure and attempts to conclude a saga over 40 years in the making across 9 movies while also trying to satisfy a passionate and outspoken fanbase. Let's see Chrétien de Troyes give that a try. But what do you guys think? Do you want—
They didn't have to. All they did was consolidate a canon and then added new elements to the same canon, the same stories. It's in a different setting or something. Like basically a different setting, different light, different moral values, brought it into modern day. That's basically what they did. They brought the Arthurian saga into the modern day with modern day values. And that's the only real change. So they didn't do that. Okay, they didn't do what you said that Disney was trying to do. It's not what they did. Stop it.
Star Wars to stay faithful to Lucas's original vision? Or is it more exciting when new authors interject new ideas into the mythos? Let us know what you think in the comments. As always, a huge thanks to our patrons for making our channel and podcast possible. Hit that subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching. Later.
And there you have it. Crack's defense of why we should like the movies. And we're too dumb for our own good, and our standards are too high. Our standards are just way too high, chat. That seems to be the case. There we go. I just wish I was more up to date with, or wish I could brush up on more. What was it? I wish I was more well versed or remember more of the information of the Arthurian legends, so I can make a better argument. But I think we can more or less see what's going on with this. It's pretty laughable. This argument, it's not the same. He's comparing apples to watermelons, essentially. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun in its absurdity. I'm talking about the Rise of Skywalker and the video we just watched. A lot of fun in its absolute, unapologetic absurdity. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and close out the stream. We've been going a little 30 minutes over, almost 40 minutes over now. But thank you very much for joining me today. And I have actually a new mug coming out soon, just for morning nonsense. If anyone is interested. Okay, chat. Hope you had fun. Hope you had a nice awakening to your day, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, and evening. And I'll see you all next time.